Inspector.
Here.
Councilman.
Glad to be.
Council, I never, yeah, one. Yeah.
Here.
Here.
Do I have a cheat sheet today?
You do.
Yes, I do. I make a motion to go into closed session, city council discuss the purchase of sale of particular real estate where premature disclosure could be reasonably expected to increase the price the city would have to pay for that property or reduce the price the city would receive for that property.
Second.
Capron.
Aye.
Greckin.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye. I make a motion, we go into closed session of the city council to discuss strategy with council about matters where litigation is imminent because the public disclosure would be likely to prejudice or disadvantage the position of the city in that litigation.
Second.
Greckin.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Capron.
Aye.
I make a motion, we go into closed session of the city council to discuss strategy and matter relating to employment conditions of employees of the city not covered by a collective bargaining agreement and employees covered by a collective bargaining agreement.
Second.
Moore.
Aye.
Scott.
Edmund, aye.
Capron.
How do you not like?
Aye.
Greckin.
Aye.
Who's that?
Here. Here.
Scott.
Here,
Waters.
Here.
Capron.
Here.
could we stand for a moment of silence? Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll go first to boards and commission. Jane Vereen for the Library Board of Trustees. Want to come forward, tell us why you want to serve. Answer any questions the council may have.
Hello.
Hi there.
I'm interested in serving because I'm a avid reader and a fan of all things books and literacy, and interested in volunteering in the community.
Questions for her?
Any specific initiatives or things you'd like to see?
No, I'm specifically interested in seeing how the library is adjusting and changing to the changes coming into the 21st century, and how the library is going to be different in the community in years to come.
Kind of the utilization of technology and updates.
Correct. Yes.
And you have not served before?
No, I have not.
Thanks for applying.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Were you contacted by one of the,
Yes, Susan
Board?
Stewart contacted me.
oh, good. Excellent.
Other questions?
I think you'd be a good addition.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
you
you.
applying.
Thank you.
Priscilla Forsyth for Museum.
Good afternoon. As you all know, I've already served one term. I'm supposed to tell you they've elected me as vice chair. Hopefully that I'll be reinstated and be able to do that.
Could have a short tenure if we're not.
Yeah, very short. But we're moving forward with the sports exhibit and a lot of the things that we talked about during our joint session, and I just want to continue the work I've been doing on the board. Are there any questions?
No, appreciate it.
I really appreciate you wanting to serve a second term. I'm just curious,
what is it about that, and maybe you can help market this a little bit and get other people excited. What is it about being involved in a group like that that you want to do it again for another 3 years?
Well, first of all, the museum is so well-run. It's an easy board to be on. And the people who are on that board, everybody's a great person. They all want to work and help the community, and it's fun to be a part of it. And we're doing a lot of different things, trying to add the sports exhibit. You get to see the fun things that come in to the museum. I just really enjoy it. I've always enjoyed volunteering. I enjoyed working with the Historic Preservation Commission. That was a little more frustrating, but I did enjoy that as well. So, I mean, I think everybody should volunteer and really find out how these committees and commissions run.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, we
And
can.
again, thanks for your
Well run,
service.
you'll probably have, Hanson will give you an extra cookie at the next lunch.
Maybe. It's his birthday today, I think.
Yeah, that's,
Thank you for
yeah, it
flying.
is.
How old is he?
It's Steve's birthday.
Thank you.
Matt Robbins,
You're still the historian, P.
Yeah.
Parking and Skywalk.
Hi, this will be my second term serving on the committee. I think with Mercy being downtown and being connected to the Skywalk as well, I'm able to provide some good input to the committee. It's also nice to just kind of keep up on what's going on downtown, and I think that's kind of why I want to serve another term. Plus, they asked me to.
Awesome.
Sure, Mercy will let you have the time off, right?
You bet.
Questions for Matt?
None.
No,
Thank you.
no.
Appreciate your
Thank you.
service.
Thanks.
Thank you. We'll go on to the regular agenda, which today we'll move with the consent agenda that are items 3 through 18D. I'm going to read these. If you want to speak on them, please come up as I read them. State your name and address for the record. If you want to speak on the item not on the agenda, please come up under citizen concerns. I'll move the consent agenda.
Second?
3 is a reading of the city council minutes of January 29, 2018. 4 is a motion appointing Nyack Key to the Human Rights Commission to complete the balance of the 3-year term, June 30th, 2018, replacing Manuel Camanico, and reappointing Nyack Key to the 3-year term, June 30th, 2021. 5 is a resolution district facade improvement program funding. 6 is a resolution setting the hearing for the annual plan for the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program. 7 is a resolution setting a hearing on the revisions of the administrative plan for the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program. 8 is a resolution accepting the work of Minger Construction for the I-29 sanitary sewer relocation along Lewis Park Road from Floyd Boulevard to Perry Creek Lift Station project. 9 is a resolution temporarily closing various streets of the historic 4th Street District from June 14th to June 17th, 2018 for Awesome Biker Nights.
Bob?
Fundraiser,
we
yes.
Discuss that, but go ahead, Angel.
Mayor Council, Angel Wallace, Parks and Recreation Manager. Before you is a request for Awesome Biker Nights to hold their event on historic 4th Street. We did receive information from the business owners on Historic 4th indicating they were in opposition of Awesome Biker Nights holding the event on Historic 4th. In addition to receiving correspondence from the merchants, we also received a petition from Awesome Biker Nights with merchants and business owners that were in support of having the event on Historic 4th Street. I do know in the audience there is Brian Hall, who's the president of Awesome Biker Nights. I'm sure he would like to come forward. And in addition to that, I do know that there are merchants who are in opposition of having the event on Historic 4th Street. So at this time, I'll have Brian come up.
Good afternoon. Brian Hall with Awesome Biker Nights. And I'm just kind of coming down here to talk to you about closing the streets as we have in the last 18 years. This will be our 19th year. It seemed to be going pretty good all the time until we received the letter this year. And as some of our members, board members, founding members have walked the streets, and most of the businesses, if not all but 2, have signed for us to come back again this year. And with that said, I know one of the objectives they had was their entrance fee that they pay to be part of this, which helps offset the cost. And if the city council, back quite a few years ago, wanted us to use the Sioux City PD off-duty, and that's a $14,000 price tag. If we could relieve some of that, we could help relieve some of the offset costs to these businesses.
Okay, I'm gonna start on my little wagon here. First of all, I think you need to have security. So I'm assuming that you still have the police department, right?
We do at this time.
For 14,000, okay, so I really do believe you need security. Are you thinking about lowering the price for these businesses? Because I think
If we can find a way to save costs, yes.
So, okay, so here's my thing. I understand that it costs a lot of money to run biker nights. Okay, I get that. I also understand that a lot of these businesses, they do make money. That's the whole idea of the whole thing. But when you charge them $1,500, that kind of limits what they're going to make also. And I know in years past that they made a lot of money, but times have changed, and people don't go out like they used to, and people aren't spending the money for a whole weekend. $30 if that's what you're asking, or $25 for one night. That's a lot of dough. And I'm not sure how much, what kind of entertainment you're having. Maybe you need to cut back on bringing in, the high quality bands that you have. That's probably going to help. But on the other side of it, this is a charity. People have to understand this. What the money that they're raising here goes to charities. They're not getting rich on this. That's not the idea. It's a charity. It's a 501c. So the money that they make goes back into the charities that they're helping. So it's kind of a two-sided sword here. So I don't know. If it was me, I would lower it to $750. Make everybody on 4th Street happy. They're gonna make money. They should. Because it's a 3-day event and it's a lot of work, and I can contest to that because I've done it myself, being in bar business for 30 years. I know how much work it is. So I would suggest to lower the price. You're going to get more people coming in, and maybe lower the price a little bit for the admission. If you lower your price a little bit, you're going to get a lot more people coming, I think. So that's the other side of it. So I think y'all have to come to a resolution, and real soon, so everybody knows where everybody's standing. As far as are the two businesses here that are not wanting to participate?
Yeah.
Is Soho or M's here?
Yeah,
Soho's here.
Okay,
yeah.
maybe she could come up and talk.
Well, before we do that, because I have a question for Brian as well.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Yep.
Brian, I just wanted to know, I really appreciate the event. I've participated, I've volunteered, I've done a lot of that stuff and think it's a great event. But the question I would have would be, what effort has been made to talk with the two businesses? Have you guys sat down on the table? What efforts have been made to try? Because it sounds like Rhonda is proposing something. I guess I'm not an expert. I have not ran a bar for 30 years. Maybe her proposal has some teeth. Have you sat down and tried negotiating with them and saying, what are your concerns and how can we meet somewhere? Because I have a really hard time closing down the street in front of a business when I've heard the way the businesses have struggled through the event. And so I just wanted to, I trust that you're a stand-up guy and maybe went to them. Can you talk about those efforts?
This year myself, I have not been to the businesses. I've talked to Vern from M's a few times on the phone.
Okay.
Last year, went down there many times and met with them when everybody wanted to have a meeting. I thought everything was going good. We have a few new board members. I've been working out of town, so a couple new board members and existing board members that are part of the executive committee was down there talking to them. I was assuming everything was going good until I received this letter, and I believe it was, when I first seen it was from Angel.
And how long ago was that?
The letter was 6 weeks ago, possibly. Last city council meeting. Not the one that Blizzard, the one before, I believe it was.
That merchant's letter from the 4th Street was mailed out November the 28th. I do believe I reached out to Awesome Biker Nights to confirm that they had received the letter, and they had not, so that probably was about a week after that that they received it, so maybe the first part of December.
Okay. So from the first part of December, have any efforts been made to reach out to them
There-
before it coming to council?
Yeah, today, yes.
Yeah.
About all the establishments down there have been met on one way or another. I've met myself with Marquis, Max from Teasers. I know one of our founding board members has been on the street day after day, meeting with the different brick and mortar places down there.
Yeah, and I'm just asking about the two that are in opposition in particular.
I know he met with Vernon's. I don't think anybody has talked to Julie at Soho. She hasn't been available, is how I understand it.
What if you stopped right there on that corner and went Iowa Street from Fifth down to Third?
That's what I wondered as well, was just shifting, but I just wanted to hear.
Well, we are shifting because of the convention center. You know, that's always been the main part of it, and like last year, we wasn't even for sure at the last minute, we did get it again, so we couldn't even put a stage there. So the stage is now down towards the main stage,
Yeah.
towards Floyd. So right now, we're gonna be starting from actually Virginia headed east on Fourth. So we're losing a lot of square footage not having the convention center parking lot or the street in front of the convention center and the theaters. I mean, that's really a big part of the footprint. And so from Virginia down, I mean, if we move down to Court Street and then even head the other direction, back east, we're losing another full block.
So is this map correct then, that we have with the,
Yeah, it was, they'll still need to go to Jennings for the street closure, just for safety. Their event layout will be Virginia at 4th Street down to Floyd, but for our purposes for detouring traffic, we would still need to close the portion of the street on 4th Street in front of the convention center, in front of the movie theater.
you have Iowa Street closed from Fifth to Third?
And Iowa is closed from 5th to 3rd. That was the request that I received.
Correct.
Because, yeah, similar to what the mayor said, what I would just be curious is, number one, I would want either the parties to come together. I mean, obviously, you're all here today, but I would want the parties to come. Opportunity there would be to shift everything. So, like, I'm looking at the blue highlighted portion and rather just start right on the other side of Ems and Soho and close there, run it to Floyd, and you have the entire parking lot where the main stage was last year. You have a ton of parking on the south side between Court and Iowa. I mean, if you wanted to set up another stage there or have more parking there, I mean, that parking area is, gosh, if you cleared all of that out, it has to be similar to the convention center parking. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder what type of compromise can be made there.
And you're talking between 3rd and 4th, behind the apartment complex?
Correct. That and then behind, what is it, Heidemann, right? Mm-hmm. Right there. Adjacent to Heidemann and behind it. Because they were on your letters of support, so I'm sure that they would be fine.
They are. And I do know that that's a possibility with all the people that live in the apartments. I do know that's where they park. I mean, it's definitely something we could look into.
So maybe not the one.
City actually owns one of those lots, Bob. We used to, did we sell it?
I don't believe we own them at this point.
I think we do.
You're thinking the very southeast corner one, south of Heidemann? I thought that
Yes.
was owned by State Steel now.
We didn't sell it.
We can find out.
We owned a parking lot down there, I know we did.
Seeing of the brick and mortars that would actually be part of the beer license involved in that, you have 3 of them that are actually west of Court Street that do want to be part of this event and always have been part of this.
that?
You have
Just
Rocks and Rails.
and the Key Club, right?
and the-
Jesus's places.
Yeah, we have a
and
pizza
Tiff,
place.
And
Yeah.
Tiff with BAs.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to leave them out,
Very hard.
you know?
You know,
And that's
they've been
what-
supporters for a long time, you know.
And I get that. That's why I would be more of a fan of compromise. And maybe I guess this is a point where we hear from the opposition and see what they have to say. And because that's what I'm just surprised that if we haven't come to the table, yourself as the director and then them as business owners, if we haven't found time to come together and reach a compromise or say, no, we've tried multiple times and nothing can be reached before coming to council. So I guess, yeah, well, if the owner of Soho and the owner of M's would like to
I have
speak.
one question before. Do most of your charities you support get under $5,000?
Correct. And it depending on the year, if it's a better year, they do receive a lot more than that.
No, I'm just asking. Because it would look to me, just looking at your profit and loss, that if you did cut your fee in half, you'd still have $290,000 and your expenses are 290, even with the 83 you want to give away. So I'm wondering if Rhonda maybe isn't very, I mean, I think what she's saying is pretty accurate, but maybe I'm wrong. Because you had $31,000 in contributions and some of that's grant money. So if you reduce your fee, I think you could still do what you want to do, give the 80,000 away and be okay, but I'm not going to be on your board of directors, so I guess it doesn't matter to me. But that's what it appears to me. It appears you could cut your fee and still be okay.
Well, like last year, we just barely made gate for the charities.
I'm not worried about last year. That was a enigma. I'm looking at the year before. You did $275,000. You got grants of $31,200, which I'm assuming may hold. I saw those in there somewhere. And I don't know what you charged.
I'm not for sure of any grants that I'm aware of.
Well, I can tell you what they are. If you give me, well, I can't either, because I can only tell you what they were last year.
Are you talking about grants and contributions? That was 8.
Yeah, 10,200.
Number 8. Yeah. 31.2.
Right. I don't know who it was from. $10,250 last year. The year before it was $83,000, which I think, or $31,000, which I think may be what you collected from some of the business owners for being on 4th Street. And so if you could hold that 10,000 and still collect something from the business owners, you'd be able to do what you wanted, if you want to give them the $80,000 range. And maybe.
I'd have to look into that part. I'm not aware of any grants.
I don't know. You got 10,250. Is that what?
I mean, we have
Hard Rock gave you?
sponsorships from different places. And
Right.
that could be coming up to what we're calling a grant.
Right, probably is.
And, that varies from year to year, whether we have a sponsor. We used to have major sponsors, which helped a lot. And as you can tell, last year we cut down on the bands. I do know the band is gonna be bigger again this year. We're gonna just go all out and try to get this to back how it used to be.
The thing is,
Then
though,
your
that,
program revenue increases as well. I don't know. I mean, your expenses were the same, so it's all a factor of how much you sell and how much you get in sponsors. And some of your sponsors are either in the sponsor and grants, or they're in the program services. They're one place or the other, and I think they're probably in the grants, and I think it's because you charge a fee to the merchants, which is, I don't have any big issue with that. I'm just saying, does it have to be that high so you can keep everybody happy?
No, that's where we'd like to lower that. And in order to do that, we gotta try to cut back in other places. I mean, we understand their need there, to have that fee lowered. Like I said, I do know one part was with security, the Sioux City PD last year, with the lower attendance and all that, and even in the years past.
Well, and
I
also,
believe we have way too many. Not they're not doing their job, but when I see 8 to 10 officers standing together.
well, we're talking liability here for the city, so that's.
I understand
That's why
that.
we need the police department.
But I don't know if we can't cut even that part in half.
Exactly.
Instead of having 36 officers
Who
each
came to
night.
who decided that was 14? Is it like one on each block? Is that what they were doing, or?
Not 14 officers. There's up to 30, 32 officers.
It was 14K was the.
14K is
Oh,
what we
okay.
pay. Yeah, it's between the 12 and 14, 12 plus to 14.
12,380.
Got it.
And my question to that too is, and then this would be a question for either the sheriff or Todd Troba, would just be wondering about the utilization of reserves. I mean, we have reserves for events, and then if they had backup, that way even if you cut your PD expense in half and had reserves making up the other offers, but that would be a deal you'd have to strike with sheriff.
I think Mr. Hall was saying, though, that that's a requirement of the cities.
To be solely staffed by the PD, because I think you
Well, you
could have
said
some
several years ago
sworn
that was-
officers.
Several years
The
ago,
direction the
under
council
my
had given.
understanding, it was a city decision of how
how's
many
that decided
officers
what's-
per, how many
what's-
people.
I believe it's based on number of participants or anticipated.
That is
Security?
correct. However, I'm not sure of that history on imposing that they only be Sioux City police officers.
And I think you would want sworn officers, like, I'm not saying that, I just wonder if you cut that
Have a
number in
mix.
half and still have the reserves to offset and still have that number, and I know they don't have the arresting authority or maybe the carrying authority right now, I
They
forget
have both.
what, they have both those. So even if you had that and then offset that, I don't know, that would be another conversation I would have.
And that would help tremendous for these brick and mortars, because then we could relieve them of
I don't know
that.
what the ordinance says, so maybe
We
you
could find out
can't,
what the
but-
requirement, yeah, we could find out what the requirement is.
You want sworn officers? Absolutely.
Okay, that'd be great.
That's, again, this is all under the assumption that the trouble that the businesses have is the money aspect, so.
Well, I'm going to add something to that, and I agree with you, but I can tell you that I had a rock concert every year
Right.
with at my business.
Chief here.
I would have loved to pay somebody $1,500
I was looking.
for 3 nights of people coming through my business. It cost me thousands of dollars one night, hoping that it didn't rain, because you're counting on that. I mean, it's not cheap putting on a 3-day weekend with all kinds of entertainment. So I understand where the money goes. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. You got to clean up, you got to prepare, make sure you have enough. You got to make sure you got enough help. You got to make sure that things are flowing good. It takes a lot of work.
It does, and you have the cost of insurance. There's so
well,
much
yeah.
involved in this that's,
It's not just, okay, we're gonna have a party for 3 days and everybody's gonna have cheap beer and that's the way it works. It's not the way it works. It's a business. People, we're giving entertainment out. So, there's gotta be a balance there, so.
and just to let everybody know too, and I know we've said this over and over, we are the board. Not one of us get paid a penny. We're all volunteers. We don't get nothing out of this. Well, I'm wrong. We get 2 T-shirts that show that we're board members during the event. So when people say, hey, I need to speak to somebody, you say, find the blue guy in the blue shirt or the lady in the blue shirt. That's what we get out of this. We do it because, raising money for the charities, hopefully bring money to the city. Everybody has a good time. Is kind of what it's about.
I think we all understand and appreciate that. I think I know, speaking as just for myself, I want to find either a solution where the other businesses are able to be on board and a compromise is able to be reached, or we look at shifting it down and what that would look like as well.
It's already been shifted though, it looks like now that I look at the map, there's not much shifting you're gonna do, so.
Well, and you got 3 bars that want to be involved, and they're in the middle of Soho and Ems. So there's got to be a compromise there, with Sohos and Ems.
Sorry. They're on the same side, aren't they?
Yes.
No, Soho's on one side and Ems is
They're
right
on the
across the
same
street.
block, but there's people further west that wanna be involved, so
Right.
you can't cut them out.
But they're on the one side or the other, they're on the same side. The three
No,
you're
they're
talking-
not.
the
No,
three you're
they're
talking
across
about?
from each other.
Opposite corner, straight across.
No, I'm not asking the question correctly. You said there are 3 bars that are interested.
They're right beyond Soho.
Yes.
To the west.
Same side as
Yes,
Soho. That's what I'm trying, the 3 bars that are interested, not M's. I know where M's is, I
Right.
know where Soho's is. Are the
it's
3
Rocks and
bars?
Rails
Yes.
and
Yeah,
and the Key
they're,
Club and something else.
yeah.
They're on the south side of 4th Street. There are 3 additional bars west of Soho
Bees
on the
is,
south side.
So there, yeah, my point was, so there could be some compromise there since they're all on the same side. Now, it's on, so,
No, there can't be because they're up farther.
Because
They need the whole street or none.
Right.
They're not gonna do a half a street.
Right.
Is the problem.
And that's the whole look of the event too. It has that kind of Sturgis feel, the historic 4th Street when the bikes are lined up down the streets. That's what brings the people.
So what are you
Absolutely.
gonna do then if Ems and Soho do not want to be involved, but we want to have the whole street because we got three bars down past them that want to be involved? So how are you gonna,
They can just be, they'll be inside the event. There, there won't be no gates or nothing put up. If they don't want to be part of the event, we're just going to request that they don't put a beer stand out on the street like the rest of them that do get involved.
See, but this is where.
So the doors will still be open. People can go in their establishments, have their
that's
food.
not gonna, how's that gonna work? Because they have to pay to get in. So,
Well, they both have back doors.
well, that's great, but they got,
I had somewhat the same concern, and I talked to Randy Heisey earlier in the day. My two concerns were, I've got this aversion to large crowds, so I get down there and take a look, but I don't hang out very often. But when I read in the paper, and I'm sure that it was accurate, that there was, barricades were placed up preventing, see, I personally believe that the businesses who make the decision to participate or not to participate need to be equally respected. And if those who don't want to participate, and if it's the dollar and cents of the event that caused them to make the decision not to, I understand completely. And what bothered me when I read that was that there were barricades placed on the street, and I understand there are back doors. Randy shared that information with me. But patrons should have access to those establishments. I also got a little perturbed when I read, it's probably been 2 or 3 years ago, when they put up tarps or whatever they put up so the people inside of those businesses couldn't see what was going on outside. I didn't particularly care for that. I'd like to support staff's recommendation, but I want to be assured, you and the other businesses not be able to reach an agreement, and businesses choose not to participate, that there will be access both front and back, front of the building. Oh, they have to have an entryway out of the establishment.
It goes up to the sidewalk.
And that, not to interrupt you, but that's what we did 3 years ago when it used to be Luciano's, and it was Soho's. And the fire marshal and city inspector came down there because they wanted entrance to the front. So that's when we put the cattle gates from the front, the sides, down the sides because they're both on the corner. And that was for people that don't want to pay to get into the event to go to their establishment. And then that's when it really got blew out on Facebook. So we tried something to still let people get to the front of them establishments the way they wanted, which was good with the city marshal, with everybody, except the places that didn't want in. So it's kind of a hard,
they were able to access the front of the?
Yes, we came off the front of their building, went to the curb, down the curb, and then all the way down to the alleys on both sides. Even on the side to the north, to Court Street is where one of our stages were, so we took the whole sidewalk and fenced off where typically people would stand and listen to the band, and gave that to them as an access to Luciano's.
Well, Randy also shared with me, so the council knows, he said, and I appreciate the fact that you get the T-shirts and people can recognize who the board directors are, that they can go to security or board directors and they will help them get to wherever they want to go. That's not an issue as I understand it. And I think I just don't want the businesses to be in a position where they lose the opportunity to be open for the night or the weekend and lose a great deal of money.
But why should they have access to why shouldn't they have the windows closed?
The windows closed.
Why shouldn't they be able to put a tarp up in front of them? I don't understand what.
Well, I think they should have free access to the open area. I don't see why they shouldn't have it.
Well, I do. I mean, I put on football games. Guess what? I sell tickets. I don't want you to tell me
we're going to
they're spending a lot of money to bring in entertainment, and if I can go stand inside that gate all night and not have to even go into M's or That's not fair.
We're not talking about vacating streets for somebody to go to a football game, unless you're playing outdoors.
Well, yeah,
But-
it doesn't matter. It's the same principle. You put on an event to make money.
Well, look
And-
at Roberts
and-
Stadium and
We close
Cheapskate
off streets
Hill.
all the time. I mean, we close off for a Christmas parade.
But it's still accessible for people to participate and watch, or,
Because nobody
what's going
pays
on.
for it.
well, they don't. That's
Because nobody
absolutely true.
pays for it.
But they're not involved in that
Well,
activity.
I don't know.
But I just think that's,
I don't.
I don't either.
I think
of
when
a-
you do a concert, that even if you do a concert at Chautauqua Park, you made sure that the people that didn't want to pay, didn't get up to that end. They had a bracelet and they didn't get up there, and you limited their access. That's why you do a concert. If
well,
you don't
my
do it-
primary concern is the access for people who need to go to those businesses.
I got no problem with that.
Yeah.
I want you to
That
make
has-
sure that they get.
that has
get-
to
go-
be.
But I don't want them to get going in there and then standing in that area, getting a free concert. I don't think that's fair.
And we do have business passes at the gates. You know, if somebody comes say, I've got an appointment to get a haircut, we give business pass, we have red shirt security, walks them down there.
I seriously doubt that anybody's doing that, Mayor, for a free concert. I think they can sit on Fifth Street, they can sit
I was gonna
wherever
say,
they want and get a free
I've been there
concert.
plenty of times, and you have all kinds of people waiting right outside the gate watching everything happen.
I'm sure
Not
you
paying
do.
to get in.
You're
I've
always
seen
gonna
that.
get one that slips through or something, you know, through the cracks.
that's
that say,
step
I
of
couldn't
Me
get to
at
where I wanted
Morningside
to eat.
College allows people to sit up on Cheapskate
I
Hill
agree.
and watch
I
a
agree.
game and drink beer, knowing they don't have a liquor license. And
you,
Morningside College doesn't do one thing about that, and that bothers me every time I go and spend $8 there.
I agree.
Could you clarify something for me, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the $1,500, do all of the owners up and down the street, do they all pay that, or how do you determine who pays?
They do all pay. In order, it was always to be part of the beer garden to put their establishment out on the street would be a $1,500 entrance fee.
But I want to be clear on this. You're talking about all the owners on the
No.
street, or are you talking?
Just the garden.
So if they're selling inside, they don't have to pay the $1,500.
Correct.
The reason why security, tell me again, clarify why security is needed. I mean, as a practical matter, I understand generally why it's wanted, but why is it required? Well, there are two different things between what's required and what you're going to do to run a good event, which you
So,
do. So why,
Are you talking security for our red shirts, or are you talking security from the city of Sioux City PD?
from the Sioux City?
Because the
PD?
city has an ordinance. I can't do a football game without so
Yeah.
many cops there.
So it has
there a
nothing to do with
municipal
selling,
ordinance
it
for
has
that?
nothing to do then with selling.
No, I think it's how many people are at the event is how that's figured. Per so many people, you have an officer.
That's how our application is structured, is that it's per number of people, and I can't remember the
That's
200
two.
people.
It is,
And I don't have a copy of the application in front of me, but it's a set number of entrants or people participating.
I could
think
tell
it's
you also
200
that
people.
that's
and it's
also messed
always
up.
two officers.
Just an answer.
security
Yeah, but-
officers.
And I apologize, I'm not being very clear tonight, I don't know what it is, it must be all the water I'm drinking, but I really want to understand this. The $1,500 is paid from the bar, from any owner that sells alcohol on the street, on the.
Correct. The
on
bar,
sidewalk.
restaurants that are on the street. Yes, sir.
Okay, so why wouldn't you be collecting that? I mean, so that, and that pays for the security.
It pays for, it helps pay for the police officers that are on site. It pays for all the porta pots. We don't get them free, and we have a lot of porta pots we have to pay for. It pays for the dumpsters, so the people that go into the brick and mortars, they buy a beer, they come out on the street, or they buy it from them in front of them. They've got to get rid of that can, and they got to get rid of what they just drank.
Okay.
We're taking care of that.
So it seems like there might be a couple of issues, unless I'm really missing the point. One would be the payment of those costs, but the other one would be, is the event taking away from the restaurants that are in opposition? In other words, is their business declining because of that, because they are serving a full meal type, sit-down type meal?
Well,
Does it have an adverse impact on them from that standpoint? I think we haven't heard from them yet tonight. So.
correct. And I've been part of this event for quite a while. The restaurants are packed. Now, last year, 2 of them that are not signed up to be part of this, they both closed their restaurants last year. Why, I do not know. I know for a fact that I've tried to I used to go to Soho's all the time, and it'd be packed to get in there. When it was Luciano's, I'd go in there, and they would only open later in the evenings for their dinners. I've been in there for M's, excellent food, but I don't know why, that was M's first year last year, why they closed their establishment and just stayed to the beer garden outside. I don't know why.
I have
Okay,
one
thank
last
you.
question. Did you have one more?
No, that answers it.
One
Thanks.
last question that I have, and then I think eventually we have to hear from these business owners that are in opposition. But one last question I would have is, do you yourself then offer beer as like awesome biker nights?
We do. We have one beer tent down by the main stage, and so that sells during when the main bands are playing.
Okay. Because that's where I guess I would have some reservation, is you're asking them to pay $1,500 for the ability for them to sell beer, but then you take out a beer license so that you can sell beer at the most prime location.
Yeah, and that's kind of a,
You know what I mean? Like
I do.
Then I'm paying, and I don't know how much Rhonda would know better than me, but say you have to sell 500 cans of beer just to recoup that $1,500 investment, and that's hoping that weather and everything goes well, and you're taking the most prime spot. So if I'm watching the concert down in front of the marquee, why in the world am I walking all the way back to the Key Club to grab a beer?
So if we didn't have the beer tent sitting right there, then the only one that would be selling beer would be the Marquee or Teasers. Them
push
two
them
do
others
not
out of
have a
business.
problem with this issue. Because if you're watching that concert down there, and just my opinion too, I'm not a beer drinker.
Yeah.
My opinion, I'm not gonna walk way down the other end of the street and buy a beer to go back and watch a concert.
And are there gonna be secondary events on the other side too, or no?
Yes, like they're both main stages.
The one between M's and Diving Elk? Or something?
Yes, and that one was packed. I mean, we had the local talent and including 35th and Taylor. And there was more people down there than I've ever seen on that corner, even versus what was down at the main stage.
Because then
Or the big stage, I should call
if
it.
I was a business owner, then I would just say, look, I'll pay this because you know what I do? I sell beer. But then I don't want you to get a liquor license because your job is to run the event. You know what I mean? Like
Okay,
you're
so-
undercutting my ability to sell.
Okay, so here's the deal. First of all, it should not be 100 or 1,500 bucks, it should be 750. That would give you the right to, I think, sell beer down by the marquee or wherever you're gonna be now, because that's gonna help you make up the difference and the loss that you're gonna have with the 1,500 bucks. I think it's okay. If I was a bar owner, which I've been for 30 years, I'd say okay. Because believe me, if you got 20,000 people coming through there on a weekend or on one night, you're gonna have plenty of people drinking beer, and you can't get served real quick if you only have one spot to go to. So, spread the joy, That's how I look at it. So what's wrong with that?
And one part of that too, we did pull the liquor license. It was another entity that ran it for us, and the money that they raised from that went to Camp High Hopes. It's not like it went into our pocket.
Yeah.
I mean, it all goes into the pool, but that's what they did with their part of their share.
And also, I'm sure you might remember this, Mayor.
Why do you say that? Because I'm old?
Well, I would say you probably don't remember it if you're that old, but here's the deal. We also had someone that Cliff Tufty wanted to take out a liquor license or a beer license, I think 2 or 3 years ago, and that did not fly real well. So you just can't have everybody coming in thinking, oh, this is gonna be a big hit for the weekend and start giving out beer and liquor license. And it's not cheap also getting a beer and liquor license for a weekend because you have to do insurance, you have to pay license fees, you got a lot of stuff that goes along with that. So in order to make up what you got to sell a lot of beer. So.
All right, let's
That's the
hear
other
from the
side of
other
it.
side here. We're gonna be here all night, and
Thank you.
as much as I'd love to be here all night, I'd like to not be, so.
Julie Shaner,
Aye.
Good afternoon.
Soho Kitchen and Bar.
Dan Myers, M's on Forest. Julie probably has more to say than I will, so.
Have Julie state her name, please.
Julie Shaner, Soho Kitchen and Bar,
Address.
4557 Hamilton Boulevard, Sioux City, Iowa.
Thank you.
Dan Myers, 3810 Martin Jard, Sioux City, Iowa.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. First of all, I want to go on the record as saying that I am not against any of these charities that are recipients from any funds that are made. I don't think you'll find a more giving group than the entire historic 4th Street area as far as supporting charities in the city. I don't want the event to be canceled. I'm not trying to put a stop to that, neither is M's. Neither are other people on the street that still support moving it, which is M's, Ave Med Spa, Studio 427, Randiette Antiques on 4th. The movie theater is not in favor of it. It's not just us two. So I just want to make that clear as well. Just because you're not a bar or a restaurant doesn't mean it doesn't affect your business. I spoke to Randy Peters this morning, and he said you may follow up with him. Last year, they made a total of $100 in 3 days in sales.
Where's he at?
He owns Antiques on 4th, on the other side, right next door to
So
Buffalo
between
Alice.
BAs and Rocks and
Yep,
Rams.
3 days, $100. Kept his bathrooms open, let people come in out of the sun. They stood, they watched out the window, cooled off, drank their beer, used his restroom, didn't spend any money. An unsolicited email from another business owner who couldn't be here today. Julie, I wanted to let you know that I agree with you 100% on the topic of ABN that I read in the news. I know what you are going up against and that you're going in front of City Council, so please feel free to use these words. And I would like you to speak these words for me. For years, I heard as a guest, but even that has changed now. I never heard anything positive from local business owners. When ABN wanted to move to Pearl Street in 2016, I wasn't really up for it. They came here, they did their pitch. I still wasn't impressed. In fact, I was the last restaurant bar owner to agree, and that was about 2 weeks past the rest. In your response to the news, you mentioned about the money that you put out up front to make this event happen. You have to pay $1,500 to sell your beer that you're already licensed to sell. It takes at least 500 cans of beers just to get that back. And then you buy all of the other stuff that it takes, like you mentioned. Then you have to deal with the ABN staff trying to police you, making sure that you do things their way, which I didn't do. And they would make it clear that they weren't happy with me. We laid out so much money up front and we never recovered it. It only takes one thing to go wrong at the event or the weather to severely hurt your chances of recovering your money. In fact, we had a large storm that year and it cost us several hours of business. I truly believe that ABN is the reason that we started having some financial troubles and we never truly recovered. People only see money coming in the door. They don't realize how much is going out the door between extra products, extra staff, license, insurance, and then you pray to make profit off of 5 cents off of every dollar that you invest. If ABN wanted to come back to Pearl Street, I would vote no. I know that they raise money for charity, but they do it while hurting the local business person. If I was a charity, I'm not even sure that I would take the money for something that would hurt another business. This is written to me in an email from Chef Nick Gunn, a local business owner who suffered because of ABN having their event.
What business
He
is
owns
that?
McCarthy and Bailey's
Oh.
on Pearl Street. Unsolicited, he asked that I share it. Told me I'd feel free to bring it along. I think that's what's a little bit understated here is what a business like Myers and Soho miss out on. I can tell you that I have voluntarily worked with ABN far before I owned Soho Kitchen and Bar. I was on the board of directors at CSADV. I worked gates, I picked up trash, I sold wristbands, I sold raffle tickets, all in the name of charity, and I'm fine with that. As there's crowds decline, there's more of us to compete. We don't see the profits like we used to. 2015, We were very understaffed. My son usually comes and runs my outside bar. He couldn't do it that year because he was moving. I let the board president know when they came around to collect my money, hey, I'm not gonna be able to be on the street this year. I'm just gonna run my business as usual. The response to that was, okay, that's fine. You know what? You've always worked with us. I provided free green rooms, free food, donated things. Never had a problem up in the past. They had 46 days to tell me that they had a problem with me not vending on the street. They chose not to come and tell me. The day that they came to tell me that there was going to be a change, they said there'll be cattle gates put around your business. If someone wants to come in your business now, they did make a little path, and I'll show you a picture of that, but to get into my business, they had to come down the alley from Heidman Law Firm all the way behind C21. They left a little path to get in my door on the side. I don't have the kind of restaurant that someone can come in the back door. You open my back door and you're in the middle of my kitchen. So we don't allow people to come to our back door. Customers don't come in like Buffalo Alice. The fences were put up. We couldn't get any customers. We did 0 business that year. So that set us back thousands upon thousands. And for a small business to lose any amount of money in the name of charity is not right. How about look charitable at me and say, we're hurting this business. Let's be charitable and not hurt them. I've got 25 employees. 24 of them require our paycheck, their money. They do not have another job anywhere else. 1 employee works another job. And I include myself in that. I don't have another job. I don't have another income. My employees shouldn't have to lose a penny over a charitable event that is held on a public street here in Sioux City. They pay taxes just like everybody else does, and I'm sure you guys don't like to hear that tax word, but it's true. Now, if this was a huge money-making venture, why wouldn't Ems and I want to be involved? But I'm going to tell you what, last year, I really didn't want to be involved because of the way I had been treated previously. The Hard Rock is giving us $75,000 to $100,000 in incentives. That's why we're moving. Bob Nettleton did everything but get on his knees and beg this group not to leave Historic Fourth. I was in that meeting. Begged them. And we were told, we're sick of your you know what, and we're moving. It was decided 300 days ago, is what we were told in that meeting. And I'm not the only business owner who was there to hear that. So I'm just wondering, is it time for them to perhaps move? Why should the movie theater lose $20,000 to $30,000? You can check the Sioux City Journal's record for that. I spoke to Scott the other day. $20,000 to $30,000 the Promenade loses every year that this event is here. That's a lot of money. Why did we not have our restaurant open last year? We had our kitchen closed to the main menu. The restaurant was open, the doors were open, the indoor bar was open. We were set on the street just like we have every other year. I didn't want to do it, but Tiffany Nettleton, the owner of Buffalo Alice, asked me out of the goodness of my heart to go along with the group. We don't want any negative press, Julie. We don't want them to look badly on you. You should do it. Okay, I'll do it. I'll do it. And we lost $12,000 in business that weekend. I don't know about you, but I can't afford $12,000 to be taken out of my business. I'm sorry, I can't. And the people who say we're in this for charity, that run this charity, would they take $12,000 out of their pocket and donate it? I don't think so. Is there another place to hold this event is my question. Anderson Dance Pavilion, Tyson parking lot. Bernstein's group does a great job of running a huge event at Saturday in the Park up at Grandview. Then anyone on 4th Street who wants to vend up there, go set up a beautiful beer garden up there. If you want to go, you can. But I have not been approached. No one has called me. No one has come to my restaurant. No one did in 2015 when I was blocked. I didn't hear one single word from these people until the fences went up. And I would swear to that under oath, not a word. And their response to me was, we don't have to tell you. We own these streets while this event is running. And that was a quote.
So Julie, it sounds to me like even if they reduced,
we won't make any money.
you won't, so it's the 1,500 or 750 doesn't make it.
No, and the crowds are so small. Let me tell you, back when this thing was blown up and I used to work the gates, my daughter, who was in college at that time, she was a pre-med student, used to come down after it was all over and pick up trash for St. Florian's, so they got money as one of their volunteers, as a pre-med student. So I've been involved with this far longer than they realize. When I worked as an operations manager for First Financial Bank, I was more than happy to help the event, more than happy. But when you didn't do what they wanted you to do, and I heard that we were set as an example to let other businesses know you can't not participate and then still make money off of our event. These are the pictures that we took that year of the charity, how they treat you.
I know you don't like that, but I don't have a problem with it, Julie.
Okay.
I'm sorry if you don't want to participate. I get that.
Here's, I'm
I
gonna just
get that,
continue, let me continue.
but I, you know,
Here's the fence that led to nowhere, though.
Okay,
They
well-
set, there was no one there to enjoy. There's no concert in front of Soho Kitchen and Bar. And how about this? These signs were plastered all over their event. This was a premeditated action under the guise of charity. Soho Restaurant, no entrance. Court Street Alley only. All over the event. Pre-printed that just happened to show up the day of the event, all over. So,
To the best of your understanding, how many businesses are opposed?
are
Because it
closed.
sounds like it's more than two.
Yes, there's more than two. I've
Honey,
talked
what's your
to
total?
M's on 4th, Corkett on 4th, Ave Med Spa, Studio 427, Randy at Antiques, the movie theater, that's 6 more right there. And you know, I agree. We have had meetings after the event was over for 2017, the basement of Soho, the basement of M's. All the business owners said, wow, that event didn't go as planned. We asked this board not to serve beer against us. We don't want to compete in selling. When they had the Hard Rock host and ask for that up front, we asked for that in writing, and as soon as they had their permit passed here before council, then they answered the question and said, yep, we're selling beer. We asked for the motorcycle, the poker run to end inside of the event. Why wouldn't it? For good business. If you've got 100, 200, 500 people on a motorcycle run, why would you end it a mile away at Whiskey Dick's instead of ending it where your people are paying $1,500 a piece? It doesn't make sense as a business even.
Well, I got to argue with that because I tell you, I was their last stop back 4 or 5 years ago, and I had to sell tickets, $1,500 of tickets if I recall, to give back to them. So it wasn't.
That's great. You had that agreement with them, but we had the agreement with them that it ends on 4th Street. That it doesn't end at anyone else's place. That was part of the agreement.
I'm not arguing that. I agree with you.
Right,
I'm just saying that.
But none
back
of
in the
that
day-
happened. And then there used to be about 5 businesses who sold beer back in the day when things were much richer down there. Now, there was 11 of us, and ABN had 2 beer tents, not 1. They had one inside of the concert, and they had one on the other side of Sioux. ABN. They had 1 beer tent as you came down the hill on Virginia Street. Because I will tell you that we all, as merchants, agree, let's all sell beer for the same price. So when Jesus at Rocks and Rails was not getting any business because the first tent inside of the gate was ABN's tent, Jesus got a sign out, and he started offering his beer 2 for 3 for the price of 2. And some volunteers came into his bar and said, you need to take that sign down. You're not selling beer for on sale. And he said, yes, I am. So, you know, there's more to this than just this $1,500. $1,500, I still would have lost $5,000. My regular customers do not come down to Soho and eat. So the example that I gave that I wrote in my letter was, let's just say I have $10,000 worth of revenue on Friday. That's gone. My normal customers do not come down. So now ABN's group has to make up for that $10,000 just to keep me flat, right? For cash flow. Next day, same thing. My regular customers do not come down. Again, another 10 grand. So I'm already 20 grand in the hole, plus another 15 to ABN, plus my insurance, plus Arctic Ice. Got to get the bin, and you got to promise them at least 1 fill to get the ice machine down there. plus any labor, plus anything you set up outside. We're talking $20,000, $25,000, $30,000. Iowa, beer is COD. They deliver it, you write a check. You get liquor, you write a check. It's not like ordering some food through US Foods where I can pay next week after I sell it. I have to pay for that now up front. So we have so much money out of pocket. And this year, there was no 20,000 people. We haven't seen 20,000 people in downtown Sioux City. I bought my restaurant in 2011. There weren't 20,000 people coming back then. But we did manage to make an extra $1,500, $1,700 back then. We're not making it now. I promise you, we're not. If we were, I would welcome the event. I would welcome it if we were, but we're not. My employees should not have to make less money. One of my employees here tonight is prepared to tell you he made a lost $250 that week.
Okay, we've got the gist. Now, ask questions because we're moving on here.
Well, I'd like Ems to be
Yeah, I'll
able to
just
say
very
something.
quickly just echo Julie's comments. First of all, we don't want to cancel the event. We support
Well,
events like
obviously you
this.
do because that's.
Well, we
the
want
only-
it moved.
No, now, I let you talk. I didn't interrupt once. It's pretty obvious to me you do want it to move. I'm not saying you're right or wrong, but it's obvious you don't want it there. We
Okay.
get that, okay?
Thank you.
So go ahead. Don't say you don't want it because you don't want it there. Now, go ahead.
Okay, and last year was M's first year in business, and my partner and I, we made the conscious decision not to open because we didn't think that our clientele would want to fight that crowd, fight the parking issue. So we closed down. We don't do the revenue that Julie's restaurant does, but we lost about half of what Julie's restaurant lost. So we gave up about $12,000 in revenue for that weekend. In turn, yes, we sold beer.
We're open though, because I had a gal that worked for me worked there that weekend, so.
No, they were
Not
open.
inside.
They closed the
outside.
They
outside.
sold beer.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
didn't sell outside?
No,
Pardon
they
me?
did sell outside.
You did sell
We sold
outside.
And you
outside.
sold food.
That's not what M
Gotcha.
sells.
I gotcha.
So we gave up a substantial amount of revenue. We ramped up our costs because it's a one-time deal. So, like what Julie pointed out and some of the others, you have to incur some costs that you don't normally have and then pay $1,500 on top of that. So, so what Julie's saying is absolutely accurate. It is not a good deal for all businesses. Some might benefit. We certainly did not. We lost money, and we're proud at M's. We support one charity a month. We pick out 12 charities for the year to support, and we have a night where we support that charity. We're all about charity, but we're all about at least breaking even, if not making a little money. But that weekend we take a hit. Yes, we do have a back door. Our back door, like Julie's, you walk into a dish room. So. Yes, there could be access, but people don't want to walk into our dish room to go eat their pork medallions.
Okay, so I can understand totally what you two are saying, because there's a difference between being a restaurant and being a bar. I really get that, and I know for sure that Julie does a lot of charity stuff because I've been with her. She's done stuff for me, so I know what a good person that she is. I've never met you, but I'm sure that you are too. So I totally understand the restaurant part of it, because trying to get people in there, they're not going to, eat eat that much. You're looking at beers. You're not looking at steak. So that's the whole thing. So I
think that's why we both put snacks on the street.
What's that?
We moved our food on the street,
Mm-hmm.
both of us that weekend.
So so I get that.
Do you have any idea, for those who may be opposed to seeing ABN down on 4th Street, how much total revenue was lost combined? I hear what you're saying, 20.
I don't know about the loss. I know, like I said, the theater was quoted, and I verified it with Scott on the phone, 20 to 30,000 every year.
Mhm.
I know we lost 12. He said about half.
No, that's not. You lost 12,000 in revenue. I'm not minimizing that. It's a big number, but you didn't lose $12,000.
Right.
Okay, revenue is a lot different than profit. I'm just pointing that out. So go ahead. How much does
don't
the
know.
antique shop normally sell?
I don't know. All I know
What's the
is
date of this event?
Father's Day weekend.
What is it?
June 14th. 14th.
15th, 16th, 17th, they're asking for closure.
June 14th?
Yes.
15th and 16th. 1 AM.
It's a big number, Pete. There isn't any
Yep.
question. Not everybody benefits.
Thanks for your information, I appreciate it.
Let me ask you this, Julie and Dan. You've outlined a lot of things. Is there anything that could make it so that you could coexist with the event? If something was changed, if something was done differently, is there anything that could?
Well, I'd say probably three things. Entry fee would certainly be one. Access to our front door would certainly be another thing. Not competing with the vendors that are paying the fee would be a third thing. ABN not having, competing against us.
With the alcohol sales.
Alcohol sales or with the food vendors?
Well, ABN obtains an alcohol license, so they have beer tents, but they're selling the same thing that they're asking us to pay to sell. So we have a problem with that.
For some reason, I was just thinking that they had a beer tent. I didn't know they had liquor. So that's another.
No, it's just a beer tent.
It's just a beer tent.
So Dan,
Right, it's just beer, it's not liquor, right? Okay.
so tell me again, Dan, so reduced fee,
Better access
to the front door of your restaurant, to M's.
Yeah.
And the third one was?
Not having their own beer tent to compete against the vendors, because, you're just, it's hard enough for all of us to sell enough beer to, recoup our costs when you have one more vendor there
Without our
selling
hosts
against
competing
us.
with us as well.
Julie, would you agree with that, though, those three
I would
items?
agree that's a great starting point. I'd like to see some of these things in writing, which we don't get. We get told one thing and it didn't follow through.
Well, but if they agree to that, and you may not agree to that, but if they agree to that, I mean, would certainly set that out. You and things in the past and miscommunications and a breakdown there, and I think we could improve it, because I think it could be a good event if they perform of the things that you're asking for to coexist. You're not standing there saying, well, that would make it great. You're just saying we could coexist with the event so that it could be held for those 2.5 days that it's held. Because it's what, Thursday afternoon into the evening and then
Sunday.
all day?
Yeah.
No, it's not on
It's
Sunday.
it's over Saturday,
Right, Thursday, Friday,
Sunday
Saturday,
morning.
something.
Yeah, Sunday morning is when everything should be
Afternoon
cleared out.
Thursday, all day Friday,
All day Friday, all day
Saturday
Saturday.
till 1 AM Saturday night. So, maybe that's, and I don't know how that's striking you, but I mean, if they could do that,
I'd like to know if they have a contingency location. If for some reason they couldn't have it on 4th Street, is there a contingency location for them?
I don't know the answer to that, but
Not that I know
what I'm trying to focus in on right now is that just whether coexistence is even possible.
We had talked about a couple different locations and.
I'll address that. I don't know why no one's coming up from Awesome Biker Nights, but they have made a reservation of Anderson Dance Pavilion, and they also have reserved the Long Lines and Tyson parking lot as
They
a.
can't reserve that because I've got first hold on that.
I'm just saying, they have inquired.
I'm saying I have first
Oh,
hold
okay.
on that.
Oh, understood.
And so
They've
they
inquired.
may have a reserve, but they got a second hold because.
They have reserved our Anderson Dance Pavilion.
That's fine. Thank you, Angel. I guess where I would come down on it too is what I'm thinking is it just really troubles me that you all haven't sat at the same table. You know what I mean? Like whether it's been that time or something, I just want, because to Dan's point, it sounds like there might be an opportunity to coexist or work together. And that's why I'm not comfortable just saying, yep, well, we're going to do it. And you haven't even met with all parties.
I'm going to stick my neck out here. I will sit down with the parties involved and try to come up with a conclusion. This is what I'm going to suggest. I'm going to suggest $750 for any bars.
Well, but let them come to that, you know what I
Well,
mean?
I know, but I want to give them an idea what I'm thinking, because then it might be something to talk about. $750. I still think the biker night should have one tent. I didn't know they had more than one tent, but if they did the $750, that would help to make up the difference of the loss. of the
But they're not
1,500.
keeping that revenue. He said it's
I
just going to
understand-
charity. So
Exactly.
give to one less charity.
Charity gets what's left over.
Give to one less charity, don't sell beer, and let the restaurants that you're finding sell beer. You know what I mean? Like, you don't, if you're giving to 11 charities instead of 12, I mean, I don't think anyone's gonna call and say, well, you didn't do me. Okay, well, we'll get you next year. If you're not making money, why compete with the people you're finding? Unless I'm missing the point. I would just say, I think it's silly that city council is where we're negotiating this and mediating
Right.
this.
We're
I
not
think this
gonna.
should have been
We're
done.
about ready to end it right now.
Should have been
and
done
defer.
long before coming before council, as far as I'm concerned. And so I would just say, and that's fine, no need to point blame, whether it was the inability to reach out to Julie or you were out of town, sir. Either way, I'm just saying, I think that everyone's here now, we know who the parties are, and I think we need to get together and just come up with a compromise and see if one can be reached and then come back. It sounds like there's room to wiggle, so let's wiggle.
Yeah, and I don't know about the other owners. We didn't know that this item was even on the agenda till after it got on the agenda, and then we were informed. So we didn't
Well,
know
that's
it was
not up
even
to
an
us to
issue.
tell you guys, so there,
Pardon me.
that's not up to the council to get a
No,
hold of all you
I
people.
understand.
I don't find out until Thursday afternoon.
Yeah, right, me neither,
No, I get
exactly.
it, I get it. But I'm just saying, we had no idea that, we just assumed ABM was going
Well, the
somewhere
only
else
reason
until.
it's on the agenda is because, we're talking street closures.
Right.
So it has nothing to do with, they were just giving to us what we were,
So if
have
we
to vote
defer
on.
this for a week, it would give you all an opportunity to try to see if it's even possible to come up with a plan.
Probably need more time than that.
More than a week? A week, 2 weeks?
Let's let this gentleman speak and then we'll move on, because this has gone way longer than we should have allowed it to go. I'm gonna have him speak behind you there if he can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Might have to do more than a week.
I'm Andy Phillips. I've been on the Awesome Board for 18 with gating off the sidewalk to give Julie's customers an opportunity to come through her front door outside of our event. Okay, and that, I believe, is where the animosity started. I believe if we had to do it over again, we wouldn't do it the same way. Hindsight being 2020, I think that's where a lot of the animosity originated. That being said, there were some things that were said that were materially incorrect. We had an agreement with the historic district bars last year. When we came back from the Hard Rock District, we had a meeting with them, and we sat down with most of them, a significant number of them, and said, here's our proposal. The bar owners and the restaurants down on the west end of 4th Street had no problem with us having our own beer garden. We did not hear from McCarthy and Bailey's that they had a problem. This was news to us tonight. We told them we were going to have our own beer tents. Fine. So we did, and the storm blew us away. It was one of the worst revenue years we'd had. So when we went back to the historic district last year, we sat down and we said, okay, here's what we propose. And we showed them what our proposal was going to be, and we said, we'll even put you guys, if you all sign the agreement and agree to pay us the participation fee, we will make you guys our naming sponsor. You'll be on our t-shirts. You'll be, the historic 4th Street District presents Awesome Biker Nights. We said we would bring the poker run down to the historic district and make it the last stop. And we put all this in writing. We did. I've got an agreement on my computer. And we presented it back to them and said, okay, now's the time to sign.
Can you get that to us?
I can. Now's the time to sign. Not a single one of them would sign. We were in a meeting, and they said, well, are you going to sign? No, I don't know. I'm going to have to think about it. And we left that meeting just shaking our heads, thinking, okay. So when we had somebody ask us to move the poker run stop, and the poker run stops have a participation fee too. And so we put the poker run stop at a different location to get that revenue. They walked away from the agreement. We didn't. I just wanted to set the record straight on that.
Well, that's fine, but I'm gonna move, we defer this until February 26th. The 19th is the President's Day, we will not be meeting, and so I'll make that motion, and I hope that somebody will second it.
I will.
And get the rest of
Second
this
it.
agenda done. Rhonda, second, and please call the roll, please.
Moore,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Waters.
Aye.
Capron.
Aye.
Greckin.
Aye. Thanks, Andy, for your comments.
I'm, thinking that it's in your best interest to find another place to have the event, simply because I think you'll make more revenue if you control all of the beer and all of the liquor, or if you work with somebody else. I think you guys do a great job, but is it worth the fight at the end of the day? It's a question I would ask myself, so I'll leave it at that and hope you guys in the next 3 weeks can work something out. How's that sound? 10 is a resolution accepting a donation for the City Parks and Rec Foundation for the Cone Park Development Project. 11 is a resolution supporting an IEDA application for the Workforce Housing Tax Credit Program for Aftershock Ventures Limited, LLC, I'm sorry. 12 are resolutions approving settlements of workman's comp claims. 13 are actions relating to grants, a resolution approving a grant agreement from HUD for 2 family self-sufficiency program coordinator positions. B is a resolution authorizing fire rescue, submitted an application to the Department of Homeland Security for the assistance to the firefighters grant to replace self-contained breathing apparatuses. 14 are adopting construction documents. A is a resolution adopting plans and specs for the Tyson Event Center wheelchair ramp replacement project. B is a resolution adopting plans and specifications for the Cook Park Splash Pad project. 15 are actions relating to bonds. A is are resolutions fixing the dates for meeting of the issuance of GO bonds not to exceed various amounts. See the list and come forward if you have any questions. 16s are actions relating to agreements and contracts. A is a resolution approving a work order number 33 with RS&H Iowa for environmental assessments for the land release at the Sioux Gateway Airport. B is a resolution approving a 2-year extension with Williams & Company for audit services for financial services. C is a resolution approving change order 4 for the contract with Christensen Construction for the 2017 Cone Park Splash Pad and Ice Rink project. D is a resolution approving First Amendment to the development agreement with 413 Pierce Street Motor Mart and Historic Hospital, and a First Amendment to the minimum assessment agreement with Motor Mart. E is a resolution appointing Dr. Randall Wood, MD, as Emergency Medical Service Medical Director and approving the Medical Director Agreement. I really take issue when we don't even ask. I don't even know this doctor, probably a great guy. I'm sure he worked for the other ambulance, but we don't even ask anybody else to bid it. We take what they used, and that's hard for me to vote for those deals.
Jim Hayden, EMS Director. There's quite a few physicians, especially the ER physicians, that have expressed willingness to participate in this and be medical directors. Dr. Wood does have EMS experience, and as part of his residency was currently involved in EMS in Nashville.
I have no problem with that.
Okay.
But do I know that this is what it should cost? Well, I don't. That's my problem. Do I know there isn't somebody else that's qualified?
At this point, no.
I don't. You're right.
And would this go out to bid then? Are you saying like just say?
Request for
who would do
professional
it?
services,
But I
just
mean,
like
who
you would do it.
But then what would be the benefit of just obviously having the better person? Is the fee structure the same? That's what I wondered. 'Cause
We have
does he
no,
get, like,
we'll
29?
never know.
But I mean, does he get like 29, I think is what it is?
It's basically 26 and then part of an insurance policy because he's required to carry malpractice insurance. Basically, we're all working under his license or any medical director's license.
No, that makes sense.
He's a great guy. I don't even know him. I don't even know where he practices, and that doesn't matter to me.
Well,
I guess.
I do know him. I'll say he's a great guy, but yeah, I just don't know if then it would be lower or not. Or...
Chief Everett, Mayor, if you'd like, the reason we went with Dr. Wood this time, obviously, is because we were already using his protocols. If in the future, you'd like
He
us...
will be here now, just like Williams and Company,
No,
till I die.
what I'm saying is if in the future, if next year you would like us to put it out for, a
No,
request for
I'm probably the
proposals?
only guy, but I don't like single source contracts that I don't know what the market is. I don't like it. I've made it very clear, but we continue to do it around here, and so I should just shut up and say I'm stupid for ever insisting that we do something differently than what we've done, but anyway.
Well, but that's my question is that a moving target, the 26 or 29? I don't know how that was established. Do we know?
I think that was based on pretty much what the old SBI contract was. It wasn't higher than that. And just trying to keep some consistency with the transition, I believe that's where it was set, or an agreed upon amount. It's when you consider all the different aspects of the job that they're responsible for, the continued quality assurance and keeping up with that, keeping the drugs are under their ownership.
Yeah.
We actually purchase them, but on paper, as far as the state's concerned, they own the drugs and have to make sure that we're maintaining all the narcotics
And I understand all that, Jim.
certifications
I
and so
totally
on.
understand. I'm not saying he's not doing, that we're not operating under him and
We don't have people
he has some
jumping
risk in it
out
as
of the
well.
woodwork to
I'm just
do
saying, I
this.
wonder if the 26 is standard or if it's usually less or more.
We get awfully good value for the cost of this contract. We don't have doctors or physicians jumping.
Then send us an email and say, you know what, you're not gonna like it, Mayor. Send me an email and say, you're not gonna like this, but we just think this is the right decision to make. Rather than come with a single source vendor. And the late hours got my nerves a little bit, but it couldn't, I
guess
mean,
we
at
didn't-
least
at this-
give finance credit. They sent me an email and said,
Yeah.
this is what we wanna do. Do you have a problem with it?
Frankly, it's my fault. We didn't consider it. This time we moved with the doctor that we have been using. We didn't want to change protocols. Next year, if you'd like, I'll bring it back.
No, I could care less.
Well, I would say
because I'm
do
not gonna
that.
be any happier.
I
but-
would be for consistency. Doing it for this year makes sense. But then maybe next year, if we can just open it up and
See
if
who
he
else
has
is
the
out there.
EMS experience and he brings a lot to the table, which I think he does, then he'll rise to the top as well.
You bet.
I think that's fair. Jim, would you be opposed to that? Or?
Not at all, but we do need some consistency, especially with the medications and,
Yes.
and the trail, the
I
paper
get all
trail that's
that, guys.
involved in
I
that.
get all that.
I agree.
I get all that. I'm not arguing it. It's just,
So yes,
I'll never know if there's another doctor out there that's qualified. I'll never know. And this guy, I'm sure he's right. Alex right. He'll probably be the guy next year.
Maybe.
And so I'm fine with that, but I would just say, I would agree with the mayor that if we can do consistency, and I don't know if this is what he's saying, so maybe I'll speak for myself. I would say if we can do it this year, keep consistency with Dr. Wood, that'd be great. And then next year, if we can open that up, I would appreciate that as well.
Okay.
Tell Dr. Wood I don't know him. I bet he's a great guy. I'm not being critical of Dr. Wood.
We'll let him know.
I don't want him to feel bad.
I have 2 minutes.
Yes?
It's part of the next item.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is
I
terrible.
want to do this before the cameras get back.
Are you gonna break a hip, Dan?
I didn't know what he was doing.
Dan's gonna break a hip. Dan, come on, buddy.
You know, you only get work comp on your $10,000 salary, not your lawyer salary.
Where's media?
Put your skates on while you're at it.
Hey, there you go.
Forget the brakes.
I was gonna say, I'm actually terrified.
It's gonna hit somebody. All right, that's good.
Open the door, open the door.
Hey, you gotta take my ramp is what you do. Oh, gosh.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, God, he's gonna wipe out. Jesus. Oh.
F is a resolution approving a service agreement with Lime Bike for the bike sharing services. I have a question because I had a concerned citizen who's, I think, an awful lot of, tell me that he was in Dallas and these bikes just lay on the ground. What are you gonna do to make sure they don't lay on the ground?
Great question. Hi.
State your name and address.
My name is Gabriel Scheer, and I am with Lime Bike, which is the bike sitting behind you now. And Dallas is a great question, or any city in which we operate. We are based in San Mateo, California, but now operate in 45 or something like that cities across the country. And the way we deal with bikes that go down are multifold. One is sometimes citizens pick them up for us, which is great. We don't require that or expect that. Two is we hire a local team, and the local team's job is to go out and make sure the bikes are organized, they're in a neat place, They're in an orderly fashion. They're retrieved when they have problems. And problems are a thing that happen with this because you've got a new service with bikes parked on streets in the public right-of-way, and our job is to deal with that problem, minimize the problem, and provide a new public mobility service.
Well, he was just in Dallas, and he said they're all over the place. So what are you going to do to make sure?
Yep. They are all over the place. Dallas is a much, much bigger scene than here, obviously. So Dallas combined with our competitors are about 20,000 bikes. Sioux City will not be anywhere near that. So that is one of the things. In Dallas specifically, our CEO has a letter that he recently filed with the city manager there that explains our approach to it. So one thing is we're doubling our staff size to about 100 people. A lot of those people's jobs will be to be patrolling on foot as well as on bicycle and in vehicles to make sure bikes are tipped over. Second is technology. Our next generation bikes will have gyroscopes on the bike that notify us when they are tipped over, which gives us the chance to respond more quickly and proactively to a bike that's down.
Great. Mayor, I was in South Bend in September on the campus in Notre Dame, and South Bend has Lime bikes, and they are throughout the community, but they're all, I don't believe I ever saw one lying down anywhere, and they just use the dickens out of them. It looks like a good program.
It looks like a great program. I don't want bikes laying on
Yep.
sidewalks, people complaining at me.
I agree.
Is this year-round?
Yeah, it's a good question. So in South Bend, we operate year-round currently. In Aurora, Colorado, which is another snow market, we operate year-round. The only market so far that we've fully withdrawn from for the winter is Lake Tahoe, which gets crazy amounts of snow. Sioux City, I think, is a to be determined yet. As of right now, the plan is a go forward year-round, and we're talking to cities further north than you, and we're exploring snow bikes, which would be wider tires, potential studs, and various other things, and/or we would withdraw like in South Lake Tahoe.
And how far can they go? Outside of the radius of Sioux City, or is
It's
it?
a great geofence around bikes in the app, which tells you you can't go in certain places. So for example, the nature preserve up in the northwest corner, we can say that's off limits or whatever. Currently, unless we draw those boundaries, people can in fact take them anywhere. So you could theoretically ride indefinitely. Practically speaking, people tend to ride them on average about 30 minutes. So in our nationwide average, right now we operate about 30,000 bikes. The average ride is just under 30 minutes, and it's a
Staff will go retrieve.
Yes, and in theory, if you rode out into the country, you probably want to come back as well. So it's also probable or possible that you bring it back. You may not. In fact, you may go to a friend's house, have a couple beers and decide you shouldn't be biking back, in which case the bike is now there for the night or for until someone goes and gets it, in which case that's our field team.
Or they need more beer.
It does carry beer in the
Well,
basket.
it could carry a six-pack, I see that. That was a six-pack right there. Okay.
Stick with cans. I've tried bottles and they bounce out.
Oh, yeah, but I could understand that. Okay, and the other thing is, we're a tri-state area, so do they have to stay within the city limits, or do they have to stay within the state?
Again, currently, no. So the current reality is that unless we specifically decide not to service certain areas, which we do. So case in point would be Denver, Colorado is right next to Aurora, Colorado. We have a service area with Aurora in which we are fully able to operate within city bounds. Denver has asked us not to yet operate there. So our bikes do go into Denver, and when they have an incursion into Denver, either they come back out with the person who took them there, or we send our field team in to retrieve them. And in all those cases, we tend to try to work directly with the city to make sure that either one, they're okay with them coming in, or two, that we actually have an operating license with them.
So have you talked to, like, our surrounding, like Sergeant Bluff,
Yeah, we did hold a meeting, and we had leadership from South Sioux as well as North Sioux, and they understand the program. We also sent out information to our colleges at Sergeant Bluff. They weren't at that meeting, but we have notified and gave information to all of our stakeholders in this area that this is coming. If you want, like he was saying, we can fence that area off. If that's something that they would request, we can do that, or we can allow riders to go there.
Okay, so, and it's not costing the city nothing?
No, that's correct.
No liability, no nothing if somebody gets hurt on this bike on ours?
You're indemnified, yes. So we have insurance that covers our bikes and our operations.
Well, how can we say no? I say this is a great.
So we could get a little money out of the deal.
Oh, Bob, you're right. Okay, so here's the deal.
Is everybody in the United States all $1 for 30 minutes?
Yeah, it's $1 per 30-minute ride, except for somebody with a .edu email address. So a student, somebody at Morningside, for example, would get 50 cents per 30-minute ride.
Nice, I didn't know that.
We also work on programs.
What now?
50 cents for a .edu.
Yeah, and then we also have programs for low-income populations at 50 cents as well.
No, Bob, don't go there.
Really?
Be swiping that card.
Specifically exclude city council members.
Actually, I saw Dan doing so well. Don't crush it.
That's a nice bike.
Actually, we work with city employees as well on 50 cents.
There you go.
I'll just jump in real quick. Darren Davey, 700 4th Street, Sioux City. I talked to both Arkansas State University and South Bend, Indiana, to the people and asked that specific question. I visited Seattle, and actually, while there are bikes around, I didn't think it was a big issue, but we did ask that question, and both said that the team from Lime Bike does a really good job of kind of staying on top of it. And as people get used to it, they get better at it. And so, you know, what we're doing is we're educating people how to participate in this.
Well, I don't want to contradict what you're saying, but Dallas, they were Lime Bikes.
Yeah.
And they were all over the place.
Yeah, if I may, Mayor, I'd say that actually you're in an interesting position in a lot of ways. You're the first Midwestern city that we will, there's one other city with which we might launch before you, but probably you're the first Midwestern city. You're certainly the first in Iowa, which is something that to me is a point of personal pride and very exciting. I went to college in Iowa. This is a place that I know well.
But we've always been on the cutting edge here. So
I know. I did. The other shore. Yeah, Luther. Yeah, so, and I have in-laws an hour from here. In fact, my niece goes to Morningside, so very close to home. But.
Wow. Bob, you're getting hammered over there.
Could have gone all day and not said that.
He's rethinking. So I think there are a couple of points that you're touching on that are very interesting to note. One is Dallas is a fundamentally different market, not least because it has competition. So one of the things the competition has done is Dallas went in with a come one, come all at any number of bikes you want approach. And one of our competitors launched there first with 10,000 bikes. And as you'd imagine, a business seeing their competitor coming in with a certain number of bikes would say, well, we're not going to let them eat the territory without us. So we did the same thing, which is challenging because it does create a massive operational challenge. So you're absolutely right. There are 2 competing companies plus 3 other smaller companies there. And I think that the thing that has created is a very interesting twist on how do you operate this thing. Second, we've been dealing directly with the city manager. There is, in fact, a public letter from our CEO talking about exactly the problem you're describing. And our competitor had a very different reaction to the city manager, and you're welcome to go learn about that. To me, what's really exciting is to see if we can make this work somewhere like this without that competition piece in the way it does in South Bend.
It doesn't work. I want your card because I'm going to be calling you and you are going to be chipping the bikes.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Because I'm not going to have citizens chewing me out because there's bikes laying on our sidewalk.
And I would encourage is to anyone who gets a call from the city saying that there's a bike down, call us because that's our job.
That's why I'm sure Angel will get us your information.
And you'll have a marketing.
All right.
You got my number. Okay.
Just one last comment on you talking about the revenue side of
Anybody
it.
see Toto out there? He's looking for it.
We have been looking at this for several years, and
Go
until
find your
this
dog.
technology came about, we were looking at docked bikes, and to get about 8 bikes was going to cost us about 20 grand. So to get any scale at all, it was so cost prohibitive. So to have this come in and have it
I'm gonna challenge
just
him
fed
to
by
a race
usage
later.
is outstanding.
All right. 17, applications for beer and liquor license. See the list, come forward if you have questions.
Ian,
18,
open the door for him so he gets
Let
out in
him
the
out, let
hallway.
him
Lock
out.
him out.
Take a left, take a left.
18, receipt of minutes. See the list, come forward if you have any questions. Anyone to be heard on any of those items? Call the roll or let's vote here. Okay,
And that's with the deferment, right,
yes.
for ABM?
It's a nice riding bike. It really is.
I appreciate the solar panel, by the way. Please pass that along.
For what it's worth, the solar panel is what charges the lock on the back that enables.
No, I know. I was saying I really appreciate that feature.
I know how you did it.
Is there a reason some of the rims are the unbendable or whatever, and these aren't?
Yeah, I think what you're talking about is the Chromag wheels, which are more
Re-spoke or whatever.
Yeah, so the Chromag wheels, we went with the spokes instead for a couple of reasons. Operational was one of them, the challenge of repairs and other things. The other was price. We switched to a multi-hub gear, or multi-gear hub rather. So this is the 3-speed that you see right there. We also have 8 speeds, and in doing that, that added the cost to the bike. So we dropped the mag wheels as part of that.
I was just curious, because I just don't want the rims always getting.
What's the
bent
life
up.
expectancy of the bike?
Great question. Supposedly 5 years. I think reality is more like 3 years, candidly. So we've been running, you mentioned Dallas, that's 10,000 bikes. Seattle's got about 4,000 bikes. South Bend started at 240 bikes. We're now at about 1,600 there, and we've been working directly with the mayor specifically on what's the right number. So we share the data from our bikes. They each generate a GPS trail. We share that with the cities, and then we kind of look at it together to say, okay, what's
Bike
happening?
lanes and everything else, yeah.
Exactly right.
How many council members nationwide have you had ride the bike during a meeting?
Let's move here. I got, some of
During
us still got to
meetings?
work today.
Not sure.
Recommendation of the planning and zoning,
Write it down,
19 is a
that one.
motion accepting the planning.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Oh, I read 5-0. Motion accepting the Planning and Zoning Commission approval of the FY 19 through 23 capital improvement program with regard to the comprehensive plan. I'll move it.
Second.
Chris Madsen, Senior Planner. The Planning and Zoning Commission did review the capital improvement program and did approve that unanimously.
And I wanted to just say real quick to Michelle's concern, or that was brought up in the meeting, I saw you back there, that I think and hope it came up in the downtown partners discussion, that the Lime Bike will be able to track where those routes are, especially for bike lanes. I think that would be important to have that data.
Passes 5-0. 20 is a hearing and ordinance vacating a portion of Jennings Street by 839 Gordon Drive. Petitioner Handy LC. P&Z recommends approval deferred from January 29th, 2018. I'll move it.
Is there any discussion of why Gary voted against, or why it was 4-1?
Correct. The Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed this, voted on a 4-1 to approve. The one no vote that was concerned about the drive-through on the east side of the existing Woodbury Center and turning radius back onto Jennings Street. However, during the discussion, we did note that First Street, while currently is not open, when we vacated that for the Ho-Chunk development of Virginia Square, that would remain open for public vehicles to travel through. But he did still have that concern about vehicles leaving the drive-through and going south on Jennings Street and making that turn.
But you're confident it'll be fine?
Staff don't see any issue with that.
Yep, sorry. So far, so good.
Waters?
Aye.
Capron?
Aye.
Greckin?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Stop.
Aye. I'll move second, third.
Second.
Right?
Bob? Mayor? I'm going to change the subject here real quick, but I just got a text from a person in Dallas that that's their main concern was bikes laying everywhere. Just want to let you know that.
You did what?
I got a text from someone in Dallas, and their main concern was bikes laying around everywhere. People are angry about it.
Yeah.
And I
So
think,
there you go.
I think he explained how they'll address that.
Nope, I'm just saying though, that
Passes 5-0.
Believe the mayor?
21 is an ordinance dedicating and naming a portion of 3251 Dearborn Boulevard as West Clifton Avenue. P&Z recommends approval. I'll move it.
second.
You want me to vote for you, Mr. Moore?
Vote yes.
What are we gonna do now?
You need to sit down for a minute. What's going on here?
After that bike ride, I can't
I guess.
help
The
myself.
only question I had about this, the list that it goes on for the snow removal and mowing and everything, that's just a
Yes.
normal list, right? I mean,
Yes.
I know Mr. Waples voiced a concern. I just wanted to make sure that it's addressed.
Is it any ground we can just sell and get rid of?
The city can sell this land. It's been vacated and it's city-owned, yes.
That's what I wondered.
Get
too.
rid of it. Give it
If there was
to,
a neighbor that wanted to buy it or something, yeah, that's what I was,
I know that's next, that would come next. If the city is going to sell it, that will come next.
sounds good. Thank you.
I'd like to visit with you about that, okay?
Sure.
The neighbor would be or Waples.
Yeah, exactly.
It's right on the south side.
This is the one with all the
did everybody
concerns and
vote or
stuff.
what are we waiting for here?
No,
I've-
Rhonda's yours. There you go.
Passes 5-0. Is anybody opposed to waiving the statutory rule?
No.
I'll move it.
Second.
Capron?
Aye.
Greckin?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Stop.
Aye.
Waters?
Gosh, aye, sorry.
I'll move second and third.
Second. You gotta calm down.
I'm in a hurry for you.
You haven't seen nothing yet.
Pass 5-0. 22 is a resolution adopting plans and specs for construction of the Fuel Island project. Somebody else can move that one.
Well, I had
I'll
a
move it.
question about it.
I'll second it.
The question I had was something that I thought the mayor brought up before, and I just wanted to see where we're at. Didn't we discuss in one of our numerous meetings about moving it across the street or any other locations, opportunities? Or am I confused on this? And then one more thing, and then I'll let you answer maybe both.
Okay.
The other one then was then also the discussion of having one of the tanks hold the biodiesel for the new buses that are able to run on that. Right? Is that right, Mayor? I mean, I thought you brought up.
You are so right.
I thought they were
You're
both
about
good
the only guy that
ideas.
pays attention to me, and I appreciate that.
I thought they were good ideas, so I just wanted to follow up.
That
Darrell
vast
Bullock,
education
acting-
of Morningside College is starting to pay some dividends for you.
Darrell Bullock, Acting Fleet Supervisor. I came into this project about halfway through. Originally, the thought was to remove the current fuel islands and replace them with underground tanks. We're dealing with soils issues and things like this on the grounds. That estimate came in well in excess of $1 million. At that point, I got involved and was asked a lot of questions about what the thoughts and directions that we would like to see it as CMG staff was concerned. That was moved forward then to take it over to the north side of the building, which allowed for more open areas for traffic lanes, plus put the tanks above the ground to be able to help eliminate some of the costs. Plus the tanks then could be moved if there was additional site in the future and the tanks were still viable tanks, they could be moved from that site as well. As far as the tanks for the buses, they have their own fuel islands down there at Transit, which this does not service that. The buses that this one services are for the school systems and for the CERTS buses.
But the school system buses can burn biodiesel.
Can confirm it, and we can add above-ground tanks to this site as the demand would
And
occur.
can't all of our buses now burn biodiesel? How many tanks do we have down there?
3.
Hmm?
3.
Couldn't we convert one of them to a biodiesel?
Sure we could.
And shouldn't we?
It's certainly something we can look into, absolutely.
Well, why would you buy clean-burning biodiesel buses? We would pay extra for those buses and not use them to reduce the carbon. I realize there are some people that still don't think we have a problem in that area, but I think we probably do need to reduce our carbon output.
Yeah. And that's...
So Mike sounded open to it as well.
Yeah, definitely. We'll be happy to look at that. This plan does reduce it from I believe it was a $1.4 million estimate down to the 500 and, sorry, I got my cheaters on here.
But not if you add another tank.
567,000.
Not if you add another tank, and do we buy equipment like front-end loaders that can burn biodiesel?
Yes, we do.
There you go.
Don't understand why we wouldn't do it then. Do you not get?
Certainly can.
Do you not get the mileage, or do you not?
Mileage is reduced somewhat. I don't have any kind of numbers to speak intelligently on what that effect is.
I would like you to figure out a way to do a study on that to see if it's worth it, because the fuel is also cheaper.
In conversion of the fleet, I mean, yeah, it's just like.
And it's supposedly easier on the engine too, right?
It's supposed to burn a little cooler, yes.
Cleaner, yeah. So I guess
I
that's
bet
where
they
I'm
those big old
confused. I
fire
don't know
trucks
whether we need another
and
tank or
ambulances.
convert a tank. That's where, I guess I had a lot of questions on this one.
I'm sure there's plenty of studies out there that can give us the idea as far as the fuel economies. I know like some of the E85 fuels and vehicles gas mileage is reduced. How it would affect on the diesel products, I'll have to do a little digging to find out actual numbers on that.
Ambulances burn biodiesel?
Most of your vehicles anymore, newer vehicles, have got that option for it, yes.
Right.
Mhm.
Sounds good to me.
So do we
But
need
he's
to-
not putting a tank in for it, it's a problem.
No,
We certainly can, and this is something that's very adaptable because we're not digging holes in the ground. This is a lot easier for above-ground tanks and fuel storage. Absolutely, we can certainly do that. And we have divided tanks as well that we can put in above ground. This is going to solve some of the DEF problems for the diesel fuels as well. We'll have DEF tanks available above ground as well instead of having to send it out in gallon jugs to fill some of the other tanks. The fire department, I know, comes down quite regularly and gets gallons of 1 gallon jugs at a time, boxes of 6 or 8, and takes them back to the station houses to fill their tanks. This would allow for us to do it as they fill their diesel tanks. They can top off their DEF tanks at the same time.
I say that sounds horribly inefficient.
Absolutely, it is. Right now, currently it is. Some of the other divisions have got barrels and totes in their departments to be able to pump it directly out to put it into their equipment, but this allows it for one stop, be able to do it all at one time.
do you need clearer direction from council then on that, than what we're
Yeah,
saying?
that's where I'm stuck. I don't know.
You want clearer direction?
I think I'm pretty clear on the direction. I don't have a problem with it at all. It shouldn't really, the type of the tanks that we're talking about doing with the divisions of it, I don't see any reason why that's going to drive a dramatic cost difference between the two. It's a divided tank versus single tank.
But I mean, we don't need to add a different tank, we're just saying one of the tanks will be.
One of the tanks can be divided and have multiple outlets, yes.
But you're going to do some research on it.
Absolutely, be happy
Yeah.
to, yep.
And then the location, is that a concern as well?
Not at all. Location where it's going to be going to is a lot more open for traffic patterns and for additional tanks as needed, if that was to ever come up.
Okay.
Okay. Well, Alex and I are probably the only green guys, but, right, Alex?
I'll push it.
I want to
every-
help
I'll
the
push it
American
every
farmer is
chance
what I
can.
want.
Every chance I can.
Yeah.
Hopefully the compressed
You're
gas in the
green, you
future.
got a green bike.
That's my thing,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I hope that.
It'll
in the future
never,
we can look
that'll
at it.
never happen, so let's keep going.
All right.
You wanted that to happen, you ought to have a filling station right down at your sewer plant where you're tapping that gas.
I agree.
Thank you.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, tell me where to push.
We're all green.
That's right. He's
Hey,
green.
I run
Who
on
hasn't
batteries.
voted so we can move here?
God, hold on.
I'm keeping up with you for several reasons, man.
Falling apart.
Thank you, Daryl.
Did it come up? Well, my screen's probably died. I didn't touch it. What is it, 5-0, I hope?
Yes,
Okay, it's 5-0.
Is it on?
Well, I don't know. It went dead. I think it just burned out. It's a good thing we're getting new ones.
Good attitude.
23 is a motion authorizing staff to move forward with plans for based on the recommendation alternatives to the Floyd River Drainage Mitigation Project. I'll move it.
Second.
Oh, that's quite the visual.
Brittany Anderson, Senior Civil Engineer. Tonight we have staff from HR Green here to provide an update on the Floyd River Drainage Mitigation Project. They're agreeing to go through the presentation.
Hi, thank you very much. I'm Chris Harrington, and our HR Green office is at 519 Nebraska Street. I'm going to start off with just a brief history, some historical photos taken in 1953. These photos are of the Leeds hardware store in the Leeds area. Leeds area is what we'll be talking about with this presentation, because that's where the flooding that has taken place historically, and also we're modeling currently, would take place under certain scenarios that FEMA is requiring us to model. Excuse me. This is another picture from above showing the Leeds area. So this is prior to the levee that's now in place being installed. So this next slide shows a little bit of the history there. So after that flooding that was shown in the first two pictures, in 1958, the levee was authorized, and eventually it was turned over to the city in 1966. So HR Green was involved on the levee certification that took place in 2012. And a part of that process, there's a mapping process where we submit elevations and flood modeling data to FEMA. And with that data, they then enter another process to create a map showing the properties that are involved in terms of which properties have impacts related to the flooding. And so I'm going to skip ahead. Actually, Brittany, can I back up? Is it possible to back up? I don't know. All right.
Once you're there, you're there, buddy.
Yeah, all right. So I won't go ahead yet. I don't want to have to back up. So I'll go on to the last 2 points here. In 2015, we performed some modeling using a program called XP Swim, which indicated that we needed a pump station in order to alleviate the flooding in the Leeds area. So upon opening a contract in 2017 at the encouragement of city staff, we wanted to incorporate what's called 2D modeling within XP Swim in order to be sure that we weren't missing something. 2D modeling is a newer type of modeling that's available, and it was one last look, taking one last look with the best technology to identify if we were possibly missing anything with the older version of the model. And we were indeed doing that. And this map right here is the map that was the outcome of it came after the levee certification in 2012. And the upper corner here, I'm zooming in on it, this is the Leeds area showing that a lot of properties are impacted. It's a little hard to see, but what you can read there, if you look closely, is Zone AH. And Zone AH is a FEMA designation that indicates that properties that have federal loans within that area need to have flood insurance. And so that was something that the city was concerned about. So that is the reason why we did this additional modeling, to try to figure out, is there a way that we can remove those properties? So what are the alternatives? Brittany mentioned there's 3 alternatives. The first one, option 1, it's more of a mapping exercise as opposed to actual infrastructure project. We spoke with FEMA to try to identify if there was some way that we could adjust the map so that the properties were no longer in the map area. And due to a couple exceptions, FEMA did mention that because the area that we're talking about is less than 1 square mile, and because Leeds is within an independent drainage area, it may be possible to remove properties from this area without actually doing any infrastructure project. The trouble with that approach is that, excuse me, it doesn't actually address any of the real flooding that we're modeling. So while you may be able to remove properties from the map, which would, excuse me, limit the requirement for insurance, there would be no effect on the actual flooding that they would see. Excuse me.
You want a bottle of water? You want some water?
I would love some if anybody has some.
Here. No, we got one.
Yeah, untouched, unopened. Do me a favor.
Done us a favor, you mean?
Too much coffee today, I think. Thank you.
You're saying that wouldn't have any impact to remove those? I mean, on the map, you could remove the parcels, but...
So this would just simply be a modeling exercise and then approval from FEMA saying, yes, your modeling is solid, and as a result of it, and due to these exceptions, we'll change the map. So it would solve one part of the problem, which is that people have to buy flood insurance. However, if you do that, then those people would no longer be required to buy flood insurance, but the effect of flooding will not have been affected. So for that reason,
Possibility of that flooding.
That's right. It would still stay the same because there's no change to the actual physical infrastructure. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, they'd be taken out of the zone, so they wouldn't need the flood insurance. But are we still thinking that then the flooding is still an option, so we need to do it? Because my thought is, if you're taking them all out of it, like if you're taking, what is it, 133 or something like that, if you're mitigating or reducing that number to relieve the flood insurance, do we need to do that? I mean, are they saying that no, you probably don't need to do those infrastructure changes? Because I was leaning towards let's just do this. Let's just do the mapping and see really what the impact is. Lower this before you go into and do infrastructure. Because why pay for a ton of infrastructure if we can redo this and reduce that number of houses that would be affected?
So it really comes down to if you want to address the actual flooding risk as opposed to perform an exercise that...
Would we know more about the flooding risk with this exercise?
Well, to apply for a LOMR, which is the letter of map revision, to apply for a LOMR, our models are fairly complete at this point, but they would be honed in just a little bit. I don't think there'd be much change, actually, based on how much effort we've spent on it already at this point. So I guess to answer your question, I don't think there would be much change. It would be basically submitting what we already know, and then they would then alter the map if they agreed with those exceptions and with our model.
Yeah.
Would option 2 or 3?
I'm sorry?
Well, it would do that, right?
Would
Option 2 would do the map or do this honing in, but in addition, it would do it would address some of the infrastructure changes, right?
Exactly, yeah, yep.
And what I'm saying, I guess, I thought this item was a little confusing, so I spoke with Dave kind of at length today about it.
Okay.
And I guess I'm just confused. I don't want us to rush into it and say, oh yeah, let's do all these infrastructure updates if we would have more knowledge just doing it. You know what I mean? Or if we'd be able to do the study, hone in on what really needs to be done, and then say, okay, these are the infrastructure needs.
Okay,
How
so
soon
I
before we're
think,
gonna know? We've been studying this for at least 4 years.
yeah, that first option does not involve any modifications or even proposed modifications.
Correct.
So what's good about the second option is that we would perform a design first, which is partially complete at this point, but the design would be submitted to FEMA, and that would be a different application process, which is called a CLOMR. And there you would then have FEMA grant you, before you actually have to pay for the infrastructure, you would then know that you will have the map altered based on the process this option 2 provides, which is the CLOMR process. So the first option involves no proposed infrastructure. The second option involves proposed infrastructure, but before you build it and before you buy it, you know you're going to get the people out of the map and you're going to address the flooding problem. So you get 2 things out of option 2, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that
and
makes a little more sense.
It's a similar upfront effort.
But you're not putting in the infrastructure or putting that money
Correct.
until you have the data.
Exactly.
So you're saying, what you're coming to us is saying, look, we'll do that part, but we also think you should fund the infrastructure side of it, should that be needed.
That's right.
Option 1 is saying, no, let's just do the exercise. Number 2 is saying, no, please approve funding to move forward.
Well, but option 1 does not include any proposed changes
Correct,
even.
correct.
So
Yeah. And what's 3 or Chris?
Chris Jerry, 2406 Merle Street, underground utilities. We need to do the infrastructure in Leeds. I'm on a 3-man crew. We're in Leeds all the time. I've walked and crawled through those storm sewers. They're undersized. There's spots where we got holes in them where we're patching. There's a couple of them that's square brick ones that are oversized or undersized, and we're doing temporary patch job streets that have no catch basins, and the ones that do have them, they can't handle all the water. So we're constantly, the infrastructure in Leeds needs to be taken care of.
Okay. I just want to clarify.
Some of those things, though, you may have to do whether that has nothing, they may not be directly related. I mean, we got old storm sewer out there. We probably got to fix that, whether you
sure
won't have a big impact on the map.
that's true. He's commenting on how they're undersized though, and that is indicated too by the modeling that we're doing.
So what's option 3, just for fun?
Well, so the split between option 2 and 3 is really a matter of degree. The original funding that was available or suggested for the pump station, we wanted to provide an option that was underneath that cost. And then if you want to go all the way to removing as many of the properties as possible, then you start to exceed the cost of the original project. So because that project budget had been allocated, the thought was to have an option that was below that and doing the vast majority of the improvement. Does that make sense?
I'll be honest.
The whole thing, nothing makes sense because we lived here after 1950, whatever, 61, and we never had a flood problem. Now all of a sudden you guys discovered we have a flood problem, which I've never understood. Those people didn't buy flood insurance from 68 until we had this problem that all of a sudden surfaced, which I know it's all ponding. I know it's because of the 2010 flood. I understand all that, but it's kind of a joke, to tell you the truth. But now
Well, the event,
go ahead.
So the event that causes the flooding that we're modeling is a 100-year event, so it is a rare event. So
right, and it's because of ponding, not because when they had a problem in 2010, it wasn't because the river on the Floyd necessarily was running full. It's the same thing that happened in the Perry Creek. The gates shut and they can't let water in, so if you don't have a pump to put it over the top, it's going to pond. And ponding was never part of the flood map until recently, because the federal government is broke and because we got to keep having more and more people in the flood zone so that we can have the same insurance that covers hurricanes, so that we can take care of people in Florida rather than people in Iowa. But the Iowa people are getting to subsidize the program, and that's what this is all about. And that's why FEMA came up with this stuff, and it's an absolute joke. Now, I've got off my soapbox, but I'm not telling anything that isn't the truth, because these were never problems.
In 2012, it was the FEMA process of levee certification that led to the original map.
Yeah,
That's
because of the
correct.
flood. And then you might want to mention, and when you get all this straightened out, FEMA will take a minimum of 6 years to take them out of the flood map, because you got to map, you got to read. You don't finish the project today, and tomorrow people don't pay for flood insurance. It'll take you at least 6 years to get them out of there. The Perry Creek, some people finally got out about 4 years ago after being done for 15 years. So they like to keep you in that old flood map for a long time. They like to collect that $300 and $400 and $500 and $600 for each homeowner for as long as they can, knowing that they're never going to pay a claim on it. So, we voting, or you got more questions?
That's all I had. I guess so we're voting with option 2 as staff recommended.
I can't tell, dude.
I'm waiting for one, looks like
Pete.
Councilman Greckin.
I hear you, I hear you.
Oh, are you thinking?
Yes, I'm thinking.
Oh.
So I have more slides. I don't know if you want to see them, but they show.
No.
No. Okay.
Very unexciting, thank you, though. We really appreciate your great work. Some of us have real jobs.
Oh.
I'm gonna go ride a bike. 5-0.
Passes 5-0, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Resolution authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute a 2080 agreement for medical emergency. And you're telling me this
Chief
is
Everett.
retroactive to the day you started doing it?
Yes, sir.
It doesn't say that. I read it.
No, I've just been reassured that. And we've had 5 calls so far into, I believe it's 5 calls over there so far. However, Councilman Moore did point out, and I appreciate it, that there was some language in my RCA that wasn't clear, and I want to make sure that everybody's clear on that. Under discussion, the last sentence states that we will not respond into Dakota Valley unless we have the available resources. That doesn't exactly mesh with what the contract says. So to be clear, we process calls based on order, but also by level of threat to life and care required through our emergency medical dispatch protocols. But we will be sending somebody. We won't be sending fire resources, but the EMS division, they will eventually get somebody if they happen to be backed up. It'll just be a matter of by priority.
That's in section 5, is that correct?
The priority of requests is section 6.
But this is retroactive.
Well, I've got section 5 for my draft.
Service system.
Priority of request is 5.
You might have an old copy.
Oh, my fault.
That's fine.
She's telling me it's 5. She's
Yeah,
the
it
lawyer.
is.
I'm going with 5. Section 5.
He is an attorney, you know.
Yeah, both of them. I can't win there.
Did you add a
Plus you stayed in
provision
a
for
Holiday
the
Inn
Iowa?
last night, didn't you?
Pardon?
You stayed in a Holiday Inn last night too, didn't you?
I did stay at Holiday Inn.
Hotel
Yes.
6.
This is our best effort to, I think, be good neighbors. And I did notice that Dakota Valley's already advertised for their positions over there, so it looks like they're ramping up. Hopefully, they can be like Sioux and Sergeant Bluff and be good assistance to us as well. So I think
I
that's the
hope
whole
so
purpose.
too. And I'm sure we won't have any lawsuits, but if we do, could we provide that we'll be in Iowa and not South Dakota? Please?
You can't tell the person that you're hauling where they can sue you.
No,
Not the person
he's
you're on.
referencing
I'm talking about the
any
district.
lawsuits on the 2080.
If we have a disagreement on the agreement.
Oh. Well, that should be.
We usually have that in all of our,
In our interstate agreements, that isn't always a provision that's included, but we can add it.
oh, let's invite them, yeah, to come to Iowa,
Okay.
don't you think?
Move that as an amendment. Let's go.
Absolutely, if you,
I'll move that we amend the contract to allow for an Iowa law provision. Okay.
I'll second. On the amendment, please.
Greckin?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Waters? Aye. Capron?
Aye.
Now vote with your voting machine on the real emotion.
And the chief is our appointed, our designated, what's it called?
Designated.
Representative, yes, sir.
Good deal. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Ann.
25 is a resolution support of, oh, that's right. I know it. Doggone it. 5 passes 5-0. Thank you very much. 25 is a resolution of support to maintain the Iowa Public Employees Retirement System as a defined benefit program governed by the Benefits Advisory Committee. And any changes needed to be made based upon recommendations by the Benefits Advisory Committee and independent actuaries. I'll move that.
Second.
Mayor and council, at the request of Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Dan Moore and our unions, they'd requested this letter of support or resolution of support in maintaining the current public employment retirement system. There's been a lot of discussion in Des Moines over the past few years about changing it from a defined pension to a defined contribution, and the request was just made to have the city support maintaining it as it currently is. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dan.
Said it all.
Thank you, Dan.
Support, similar to what they did last February when they expressed support for our labor unions and our employees as it related to changes in collective bargaining. This just reaffirms their support of our employees as it relates to their retirement plan.
Exactly.
You an IPERS employee?
I sure am.
Okay. Not all city managers are. I should have been already collecting. You guys wouldn't have got me my first time around, but go ahead.
I'll make this brief so you can get going. Christy Hardy, President of ASME Local 212 and District 3 Vice President for Council 61 for Iowa, Kansas, Missouri. I'd like to thank council and Pee Wee Herman there for backing this resolution. This just not affects the union, it affects all public employees, management, and otherwise. So I brought it up to Dan, and I didn't bring it up as a union issue. I brought it up as a public employee issue, so I appreciate it. Next time, wear a red bow tie on the bike.
I will.
Okay.
And wear a helmet. Always wear a helmet. Don't
Yes.
try that at home.
Yeah, jeez.
Thanks, Chris. It's 5-0.
Oh, I threw my agenda away.
5-0.
5-0, and now we're going to go to discussion. We're 26, the Sioux City Strategic Quarterly Plan Update Presentation. I move we defer till
Next week.
next week.
Second.
Third.
Moore?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Waters?
Aye.
Capron?
Aye.
Greckin?
Aye. 27, and I've got to leave. Discussion of the role of the Events Facility Board, but my input will be this. I think that you need to shrink the size of the board down to no more than 7 would be my vote. That every member would reapply, we'd start over. And whether that role would be looking at both the convention center and the Tyson and I guess 3 Orpheum, you guys would have to determine, but I'm not sure. I'm just not sure with the Kenseth operation, how they're going to have much input on that one in particular, but that would be my input, and I'm sorry, but I have to leave. Do you want me to
And
take this?
actually, I have to go too. I was wondering, can we defer this along?
Oh, my
with
God,
the
poor
other-
Dave's been sitting here
other
for
presentation?
2 hours.
I think that'd be okay if it was deferred, as long as Dave's been here 2 hours, if he can say his piece.
Well, he
Yeah.
can have his say and tell us what he thinks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All,
heck yeah.
all we want, Dave Madsen, 3011 Chestnut Avenue. I'm the current president of the new president of the EFAB, Offense Facility Advisory Board. We just want some input from the council. We are a council-appointed advisory board, and we just need you to tell us, so now what do you want us to do? We should be advising you. We should not be advising Spectra. We should not be advising Kinseth. We should be advising you. And so what do you want us to do? And that was the discussion we had at our last meeting. And thank you very much, Rhonda, for getting it on the agenda so we can at least mention it there and you guys can talk. So that's all. I don't have an opinion one way or the other. Well, I do. I mean, I think.
Well, I think you should share that.
I'd like to know what your.
But I forgot one thing and then I will leave.
Go ahead.
And get rid of the free lunches too. They're the only board that has them.
Okay, Bob, now listen.
My opinion is, because we now have Spectra, I'm not sure that there's a need for much of what we've been doing. For example, we have a marketing committee, and I'm not sure the marketing committee is an important thing moving forward. And one of the reasons that you decided to go to Spectra is because they have this huge organization behind them, much of which is marketing, that they can tell you how to market events. We do think that there's some value in providing some information that Spectra would like to still have some citizen input into what they're doing. But we are appointed by you, and we are an advisory board to you, not to Spectra. And so that's what we're just trying to figure out. Where do you want us to go?
I do feel the need to add one thing. Spectra is us.
Well-
Spectra is a contractor who works at, I understand what you're saying. Your goal is to provide direction to the city.
Right.
To the city. But Spectra is the city, so you provide direction to them and we provide it to Spectra, is what I'm saying.
Because we would still
Dave-
advise Spectra, is
Yeah.
what you're saying.
Well,
We
Dave,
dictate-
your role might, yeah, but your role may have changed a little bit in that I would like to know that somebody is reviewing what Spectra is doing.
And that's what we just want to
With their
know.
goals and with their.
You tell us what you want us to do.
This is what I would propose. I'll make it real quick, Alex. I think we should have, I got it wrote down here so I wouldn't forget it all. I think we should have a group of citizens. We need to have a hotel rep. We need to have a restaurant rep, a bar rep, an Orpheum rep, and citizens at large, and one council rep. So, and it should be called maybe event/tourism. That way that we're covering everything. And then we can bring that back to the city. So, and also I think we should start all over and I think everybody needs to reapply.
Well,
So-
and you have, right now there are 9 members, because we haven't replaced, for example, we didn't replace Alex.
Right.
So we have 9 members right now.
Because honestly, who could?
Yeah. So, but yeah, we just think there needs to be a discussion. And so
Right.
thank you very much for at least getting it here. And if you guys, as the board now, as Pete kept telling us, nobody ever comes to the council and says, what do you think? And so that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
So that's
We
why.
also need a Spectra rep. I forgot to put that on there, so.
Thank you, Dave. You bet.
Dan, our Councilmember, Mayor Pro Tem Moore, I would request that we defer this to February 26th. Please.
Why, is Dave going to be invited here?
Yeah.
Well, I can come back. I can come back.
I know, but that's the same day we're going to have the Awesome Biker Nights discussion.
You're gonna have that discussion
And you
again.
may be here another 2 hours.
We
How
will
about
put-
the week after?
Put him ahead.
Yeah,
Put him ahead,
Put it at the beginning of it.
but at the beginning. Are you in town that day?
I'm looking. Yes.
we will have the Awesome Biker Nights item as the last item on the agenda.
It'll get resolved, but still.
Yeah.
I-
Let's hope so.
We'll put you at the.
That'd be
front.
great. I can be here.
Okay, thank you,
Okay.
Dave.
What-
Thanks-
Thanks, Dave.
So
Thanks
what are
for
we doing
waiting.
on the
Sorry for the wait.
What are we going to do on the 26th? Defer the whole item on discussion?
What's that?
We're deferring discussion item?
Our current item number 27 will be brought back up on the 26th when all members can be here.
Were you asking about 26 or 27?
I was going to ask you if you're going to make a motion to defer 27.
You don't
Oh.
really.
You don't need to make it, it's just a discussion
Oh.
item. We will just bring it back on the 26th.
Presentation items.
Presentation item.
Yes, they aren't action items. There really was
Presentation
no
item
need
is?
For a motion to defer on the first one.
Oh, there wasn't?
Oh, okay.
No, there wasn't.
I'm just
Well, can we do it again anyway?
No.
Oh, okay.
For any citizen concerns? Any council concerns? Mr. Gretkin?
I do have one real quick. I know that council, last week, I think I saw it either Monday night or Tuesday morning, we received an email from Jessica regarding a concern a gentleman on the north side had about a water main break. And I just, and we were asked to give him a call, and I know that you did, and I did as well. And the gentleman's concern was that he has a medical condition that the lack of water would create a concern for him. And what he was asking for was simply to figure out a system that we could notify individuals about any circumstances that would include that may be best shared with the entire community as quickly as we can, and that would include the water main breaks. And Gordon's here. Everybody else is gone, but we did have, and this was before Gordon's time, but before Gordon came to the city, but we were looking at an alert system, and I don't know what the status of that is, and I can talk to Dave Carney more, but I just wanted to share with council that I think this gentleman has a legitimate concern, and if we can figure out a way, it could be either that, or it could be as simple as maybe a survey on water bills that allows them to sign up that they're at risk, and if we could notify those individuals, and I don't know if there's a phone calling thing or what that would work, a phone tree, I guess, but he was, we had a good conversation. I think he has a genuine concern, and anything that we could do to work towards resolution, and I'll do my best to remember to bring it up at next Public Works team meeting as well, and we can see, but I think Mark Sims was doing some things on that as well.
Thank you, Pete.
And that's all I have.
Okay.
I'm done.
Ronnie, you're done?
I'm toast.
I'm done. City Attorney, anything? City Manager? I'll move that we adjourn. Is there a second? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, that's right. There's not many left here anymore.
Aye.
Scott, Waters, Capron,
Aye.
Braxton.
Pete, say aye.
Aye. Guess he knew that.